All right. Morning, everyone, and welcome to this session. We have a little light attendance, but that's fine. Maybe some people are on the verge of joining. Maybe they're having a little more of a sleepover Sunday morning. So no worries. What we will do is start our session as we go along. See, now how many of you have got prior experience with CAT? Please raise your hands. How many of you have given CAT earlier and know what the animal is like? So I guess most of you except Love. So yeah, so you already know what the beast is. You already tried to tame it, but maybe you could not for many number of reasons. एक reason नहीं होता है, बहुत सारे reason होते हैं जो हम देखेंगे. So uh, so that's okay. And those of you who are trying for the first time, that's also uh, nothing to worry about. The good news is that you have joined at the very appropriate time because VARC, particularly, the skills need time to build. Okay, it doesn't happen overnight. Contrary to what many people, many courses, or many teachers, or influencers, or mentors might tell you, VARC progress is not a linear thing, right? Neither it is exponential. बहुत धीरे 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 जाएगा और एक स्टेज पे जाने के बाद में स्टेडी हो जाएगा, बट यू हैव टू कीप वर्किंग टुवर्ड्स इट. तो आज का जो सेशन है, राइट, सो दिस विल बी लाइक एन इंट्रोडक्टरी सेशन. ओके, आई एम नॉट going to be very heavy on questions, or okay, yes, I have some questions, I have some work to be done, but that will come later on and we'll see. Primarily the session is about telling you what this exam is about, what it is about, not what it is that people make, what kind of mistakes in VRC, what you should be avoiding, what should be your plan, how should you go about your preparation, because this is a marathon, right? This is not a sprint, 100-meter, 200-meter, or anything of that sort. This is going to kind of last for almost now 11 months, right? Because if we are starting now and CAT is somewhere in the November end of next year, so you got almost an 11-month runway, right? So your prep should be as per that, right? There are many people I've seen who join courses even more than 1 year in advance, right? So CAT 26, they join courses in August or July or September of the previous year. And most of the cases I've seen that they get burnt out, right? वो sustain नहीं होता है. Because this exam is little different. इसमें it's not as if you would need like JEE or some exam where दो साल की preparation लगती है. Like this is not like that. Yes, you can do a sustained preparation for maybe like starting right now, 11 months, 12 months, that's good enough. Sustained preparation for 2 months, for 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours a day, kind of average. Okay? इसमें भी एक बहुत बड़ा इशू ये है कि now how many of you are working? Please raise your hand. How many of you are working? So Vatsal, Jayant, that's it, is it? Rest of you are, Srijan is working, yes. Dia, I think you are about to start maybe very soon. Or you already started. I think the rest of you are not working. Now, one thing is those who are working, my sincere advice would be to continue working. Okay, many times, see, I'm just going to give some open gyan also. So don't get bothered or think that I'm sermonizing or anything, but I'm just telling you the distilled some certain things which I've learned over a period of time working very, very closely with so many students, that there are certain things which I recommend, which one should do and one should not do. And one is as far as possible, okay? As far as possible, don't leave your jobs. Continue working till the end, because the topmost colleges, which I'm sure you are all targeting, look more favorably at people who are already employed. Obviously, more so in tier 1, tier 2 companies, but even if, let's say, you're working in a small setup, startup, or your own business also, there's nothing wrong in that also, but working is more important than taking a break for this. Having said that, it doesn't mean that people who have taken a break or people who are or not really actively employed do not stand a chance. ऐसा नहीं है. There are different things, different. So we will discuss all of this as we go along. which is why I say that this my course is not just a CAT coaching or something. It is like an education, right? So you will. I would want you to broaden your horizons as we go along. VRC is one great area where you can really learn a lot about what goes on in the world, how this world goes on, how this world moves, whether it is in political, economic, or history, or uh, any area you take, right? So let's come back to uh, the introduction to CAT 26 VRC. Now, as we discussed, some of you have already given the exam or have exposure to this, and some not. So that's fine. This will cater to both. So first of all, this is not in English, right? This is different from English. Let's say somebody says I'm a English faculty, okay, which is quite different from VARC, right? What are the differences? Okay. Also, one more thing. Uh, I would want the class to be as interactive as possible. Uh, okay, there might be a few who are not in an environment where they can mute and speak, but in my classes, it's not like I would like to keep on giving a monologue and not getting any feedback or not getting any views from students. The BRC की जो skill होती है, rather किसी भी subject की skill build होती है जब interaction होता है, right? People talk, people discuss, whether right or wrong is different issue. बहुत सारे लोग इसलिए नहीं बोलते, उन्हें लगता है कि we will look like, we will sound like a person who is not aware of things and stuff like that. Nothing like that. We are all on the same page. We all learn from each other. So please participate as much as possible. जो भी आपके issues हैं, जो भी views हैं, so unmute yourself and discuss. Okay, that is very important. तो कौन बताएगा कि इंग्लिश और VARC में क्या फर्क होता है? What could be typically, let's say, जो आपने इंग्लिश की क्लासेस पढ़ी है, maybe in your school or somewhere, and the VARC that we are going to do here. What is the difference? There are certain commonalities, obviously, but there will be a lot of differences also. So this is not an English class, right? Typically an English class. What could be the difference between, let's say, the English and VRC? Anyone would like to try it out? Take a guess, whatever comes to your mind, कुछ भी बोलो. Okay, fine. It's okay. People are a little reluctant to participate initially. That's fine. देखो, English or VRC, like English, it's like, science and engineering, right? Somebody studies science, somebody studies engineering, right? Science is let's say more of a theory, whereas engineering is the application of that. Right? So that's the simplest thing. English is more like a theory, right? Where we do vocab, we do grammar, we do uh, a lot of other things, right? But in VRC, we apply all of these, right? So we learn vocabulary. It's not enough to just know the antonyms and synonyms of a word, just know what the meaning is, or cram. There are many word lists, right? आपको अभी, in fact, some of the word lists I will also give you. पर इट डजंट मीन कि हमारा काम वहीं पे खत्म हो जाता है कि हम सिर्फ वर्ड्स को, मीनिंग को याद कर ले और काम हो गया, ऐसा नहीं है. उसका एप्लीकेशन पता होना चाहिए आपको. हाउ दे आर यूज्ड इन डिफरेंट सेंटेंसेस, व्हाट आर द सटल शेड्स ऑफ वेरिएशन. व्हाट वन थिंग, इट इज सेड दैट नो वर्ड इज एग्जैक्टली द सिनोनिम ऑफ द अदर. एक वर्ड दूसरे का एग्जैक्ट सिनोनिम हो ही नहीं सकता. नाउ यू माइट क्वेश्चन दिस एंड से कि फिर डिक्शनरी में और इसमें सिनोनिम एंटोनिम क्यों बताते हैं? वो ठीक है, देखो ग्रुप कर सकते हो आप वर्ड्स को, लेकिन एक जो भी वर्ड्स होते हैं उसके कुछ नुआंसेस होते हैं, कुछ सटल शेड्स होते हैं जो कि डिफरेंसेस होते हैं उसके यूसेजेस में, राइट? लेट मी गिव यू अ वेरी सिंपल एग्जांपल. लेट्स से आई यूज टू वर्ड्स, फास्ट एंड क्विक, राइट? नाउ देयर आर four words here: food, shower, train, and bite, right? Now if I ask you, with food, okay, which word we use? Fast and quick are almost like I mean replaceable, interchangeable, right? Fast और quick एक ही बात होती है, ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं है उसमें. But with food, I want to have quick food or I want to have fast food. So obviously, we will not say I want to have quick food. We will say we want to have fast food. I'll take a quick shower or fast shower. So I'll say I'll take a quick shower. I took a fast train or quick train. I took a fast train. I took a quick bite or fast bite. I took a quick bite. So what we are trying to do here is fix the co-location. There's something called as co-location in vocab, which means not every word can be put along with the other word, right? Even though the meanings are same. तो अब ये आप somebody will say okay, give me a list of such words which cannot be used with the other word or which can be used. ऐसा नहीं possible है. It is not possible because there are thousands and thousands of words. ये कैसे आता है? ये हमें रीडिंग से आता है. That you know through your reading कि किस word के साथ में कौन सा word जाता है. This is called collocation. So which is why just knowing the meaning of a word or synonym or antonym will not suffice, right? So you need to apply it in a proper situation. Right. So this is not in English class, right? This is VARC to the application, and this is thinking, right? You are supposed to be thinking, reasoning out logically, rationally, right? सब कुछ logical और rational होगा यहाँ पे. ऐसा नहीं है कि whims and fancies पे होगा, right? So this is the difference. Now, let me ask you, has any of you read this book called Anna Karenina? This is one of the top novels of all times. अगर आप एक top 100 novels of all time की list लोगे तो Anna Karenina will always feature among the top 10 or 20. So what is Anna Karenina principle? Does anyone know? Okay, यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है. This is the Anna Karenina principle. All happy families resemble one another. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. What does it mean? It means that जो भी हैप्पी आपको दिख रहे हैं या फैमिली हो या इवन फॉर दैट मैटर इवन पीपल, उन सब में कुछ कॉमनैलिटीज होती है, राइट? दे आर सिमिलर इन मेनी वेज. बट जो भी अनहैप्पी है, each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. Somebody may have a financial problem, somebody may have a career problem, somebody may have a medical problem, some health issues, somebody may have some other issues. तो जो भी अनहैप्पी है वो अपने आप में अलग अलग तरीकों से अनहैप्पी. तो दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट प्रिंसिपल, राइट? इसको कई जगह अप्लाई करते हैं. In fact, we will do some passage also wherein Anna Karenina principle is applied, and I have applied it to CAT VARC. So how does it apply to CAT VARC? So every successful CAT VARC aspirant eventually looks similar. जो भी एक 99 परसेंटाइल, 99.5, 99.6 और whatever लेके आ रहा है, ये काफी चीजों में सिमिलर होते हैं. कैसे कि इनका एक comprehension clear, they have a controlled reading pace, they have high accuracy, they have right RC question selection, they have calm decision making. So if you have exhibited all of these, then you have been very successful, right? Whereas each unsuccessful aspirant fails differently. तो अब अगर जिन लोगों के मार्क्स नहीं आए हैं फॉर वट एवर रीजन, इफ यू आस्क द रीजन और यू ट्राई टू डिग अराउंड, हर आदमी अपनी एक अलग स्टोरी बताएगा. I mean that's how. Okay, there may be commonalities between story, but generally देखेंगे कि somebody got stuck on questions, couldn't move on. Very common problem, not just in BARC but in all sections, that you get emotionally involved with a question, you can't just simply move on. So how to get over that, right? You have to develop some kind of ruthlessness for this, that अगर एक particular 1 मिनट 2 मिनट जो भी आपने एक टाइम रखा है, 2 मिनट 3 मिनट जो भी रखा है, whatever your strategy, right? If you are not able to do it, then you should move on. But unfortunately, it is easier said than done. But people who do it, right? People who do it are successful. People who can't, then they fail. Wrong RC questions, right? तो कोई आदमी स्टक होकर रह गया. किसी ने, ठीक है, they chose the right RC, they chose the right question, but they got stuck on questions. Here this person doesn't get stuck on question, but ये गलत चीजें इसने पिक कर ली. सपोज आपको 2 RC करनी है 4 में से, तो आपने 2 RC जो भी सिलेक्ट की वो हो सकता है गलत कर ली. बिकॉज as we will discuss in our sessions how to select the right RCs, or the characteristics, or how to decide. Again, ये unfortunately there is no hack, there is no shortcut. Things have to be learned as you go along. It experience से आता है वो. मैं आपको बोलूंगी नहीं इसके ऊपर इसकी शक्ल पे नहीं लिखा हुआ था आरसी की मुझे करो और मुझे मत करो. अगर इतना आसान होता तो फिर everybody would score 99.9%. So somebody selects wrong RC question, somebody panics under time pressure. उसका I have seen students who do excellent all through the year. All through the year they get very good marks wherever they do sectionals, they do full length box, they do whatever, even to the tune of being in the outliers, right? बहुत सारे students देखे हैं मैंने, but they buckle under time pressure. जैसे ही वो 40 मिनट की घड़ी शुरू होती है कैट पेपर में, heart beat goes up very very fast, and you are not able to control themselves despite being skilled and hands on. बहुत सारे students हैं, trust me, I've seen thousands of students, and there are many students like this. I'm sure you will be able to relate to that. कि आप वैसे भले ही क्लास में और नॉर्मली जैसे सिचुएशन में, इवन मॉक्स में टाइम प्रेशर होता है, बट मॉक में वो रियल एनवायरनमेंट नहीं होता एग्जाम का, उसके कारण काफी लोग पैनिक करके फेल हो जाते हैं. one looks for perfect answers. Now, despite the fact that we talk about this all through our course, there's no perfect answer in any RC or BA question. You have to choose the best, and which means you have to eliminate the rest. So if you look for a perfect answer, you will not find it. And then you will mark a suboptimal answer, and then we can get it wrong. One over attempts. VARC is one such area where there is no feedback. आपको समझ नहीं आएगा कि आपका आंसर सही है कि गलत है, क्योंकि आप उसको basically this happens because there's no mechanism by which you can know. Just like in, so let's say if you are giving doing a quant section or LRDI where there is an option there and आपका आंसर आ गया और अगर आंसर मैच कर रहा है एक ऑप्शन से तो आपको कॉन्फिडेंस आ गया, हाँ ठीक है यार. अगर आया ही नहीं तो देन यू नो दैट इज रॉन्ग, चारों में से एक भी नहीं है तो. बट यहाँ पे ऐसा नहीं है. मेनी टाइम्स यू वोंट गेट अ फीडबैक एंड देन दैट वुड काइंड ऑफ मेक यू ओवर अटेम्प्ट, क्योंकि फीडबैक है नहीं तो आप करते चलो एंड देन इन द एंड यू फाइंड दैट 8 सही किए थे और 10 गलत हो गए, देन द होल थिंग गोस फॉर अ लॉस. सो अन्ना करेना प्रिंसिपल, राइट, दैट एवरी कैट वीआरसी एस्पिरेंट राइट सक्सेसफुल है वो एक तरीके से होते हैं और जो अनसक्सेसफुल अलग अलग तरीके से. वी हैव टू handle all of these things, control all of these things, and when we then we'll be able to move from this part to the other part. All right. इसके ऊपर अभी तक जो हमने डिस्कस किया, any point, any view, any comment anyone wants to make, any question or doubt anyone has, please feel free. All right. Okay. Not a problem. Let's go to the next one. So now why VARC feels scary, and that's normal. Okay? ये नॉर्मल है. इसमें कोई ऐसा नहीं कि आप ही को फील हो रहा है, सभी के साथ होता है. वन इज डेंस मटेरियल. सी नॉर्मली पीपल आर यूज्ड टू रीडिंग, जैसे अगर आप न्यूज़पेपर भी पढ़ते हो और कुछ भी हल्की फुल्की चीजें पढ़ते हो, आई मीन दीस डेज पीपल इनफैक्ट डू नॉट रीड इट. Let me ask a simple question. How many of you are in the habit of reading something or the other? Okay, not tweets, not in shorts, not status updates. I'm not talking about those kind of reading. Reading maybe articles, newspapers, some publications, or reading some blogs, or reading some journals, or reading some books for that matter, or any material. Yes, so she's a very good, excellent. Anyone else? Anyone else who's in the habit of reading something or the other? I'm not saying. देखो एक मिसकंसेप्शन ये भी है कि unless we read books we will not be able to do well. ये गलत conception है. Yes, reading has its own benefits as we will discuss, and how and which books to read, what to read, that all also we will discuss. कौन सी books मेरे हिसाब से पढ़नी ही है हमें. I will not recommend hundreds of books or something like that. Maybe तीन चार, and I'll provide you also with those. Okay, so Ashwini also reads. Very good. So Ashwini and Srijan are two people who read. Excellent. Now, when you read, so let's say you read a simple story somewhere, you read a simple article in newspaper and all, वो reading एक अलग होती है. ये जो CAT के passages और CAT के जो questions हैं, right, from where they are brought, right, so that the source of those, because one thing we must understand कि ये जो CAT हो गया या कोई भी एग्जाम हो गया, इसके जो पैसेजेस हैं या इसके जो क्वेश्चंस बीए के होते हैं, तो उसका जो मटेरियल है, दे डोंट क्रिएट, राइट, दे आर नॉट क्रिएटेड बाय द एग्जामिनर्स, दे आर नॉट राइटर्स, राइट. दे बेसिकली go to a publication, they go to a book or wherever they want to source it from, और वहां से उठा के लाते हैं उसको. CAT की लेंथ की पैसेज which is around 500 to 525 words, उतरे में वो उसको एडजस्ट करते हैं, राइट. दे मेक सम चेंजेस, मे बी नॉट रियली चेंजेस, बट दे सिलेक्ट सम सिलेक्टिवली पैसेज, वो आर्टिकल में से उठा के या बुक में से उठा के लाते हैं और उसको एक CAT का पैसेज बना देते हैं. That becomes little dense. It's not our usual day-to-day read of a simple storyline where we can read and understand very easily, right? It is pretty dense. दूसरी चीज है कि there's a time pressure, right? Given enough time, many people would do well, but since you have to make sense of whatever you have to do, so let's say 40 मिनट में आपको 24 क्वेश्चन करने हैं, right? Which means इसमें 4 आरसी हैं और 8 बीए के क्वेश्चंस, right? अब आप देख लो कि सपोज somebody wants to do, you know, a good performer 99 परसेंटाइल अगर आपको लाने हैं तो 3 आरसी करनी है, right? 3 आरसी करनी है. इवन 2 आरसी में 99 थोड़ा सा मुश्किल होता है, बट 3 आरसी आपने करनी है. 12 क्वेश्चन करने हैं आपको और 8 बीए के क्वेश्चन करने हैं. 20 क्वेश्चन अगर आपको करने हैं और 2-2 मिनट अगर आपने इस पे लगाया तो 16 मिनट आपने इस पे लगा दिए, देन इसमें आपने 24 मिनट बचे तो 8-8 मिनट में आपको एक एक आरसी करनी है, 8 मिनट फॉर ईच आरसी, राइट, विच मीन्स what? 4 minutes, 3 minutes for reading, and 4-5 minutes for doing the passage, right? So this is quite brutal at times. 3-4 minutes to make sense of the passage, and then 4-5 minutes to do the four question, right? But it is not, as we know, not impossible. Like it is, yes, a good target, 8 minutes. Initially, when we start, we'll be able to do it in maybe 12 minutes, 15 minutes. Maybe somebody might take even 15 minutes for that matter. We will try to reduce it. लेकिन उसमें भी क्या ध्यान रखना है वो हम तभी बात करते हैं। तो टाइम प्रेशर इसमें बहुत इंटेंस होता है, राइट, घड़ी की टिक टिक बहुत तेजी से जाती है, एंड इफ यू मिस सर्टेन पार्ट और यू आर इनएक्टिव फॉर सर्टेन पार्ट, यू आर नॉट यूजिंग योर टाइम ऑप्टिमली, देन आप सडनली यू रियलाइज की थिंग्स आर गोइंग ऑन। तो इसीलिए बहुत सारे लोग टाइम प्रेशर में बकल कर जाते हैं। देयर इज नो फॉर्मूले हियर, जैसा फॉर्मूले या कोई ऐसा ऑब्वियस हैक्स ऐसे कुछ नहीं है आपके पास में। कोई अगर आपको बोलता है कि आई विल टीच यू शॉर्टकट्स, आई विल टीच यू सम टेक्निक्स टू right to maybe make sense of it in a very quick time and all, वो सब गलत बातें हैं, झूठ बातें हैं। ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है, right, trust me. I can also bring 4 questions which have got some hacks and show you those 4 questions, but unfortunately the reality is very different because जो भी CAT बनाता है उसको पता है कौन से हैक्स लोग लगाते हैं, क्या लगाते हैं, उस तरह की क्वेश्चन नहीं बनाता आजकल। तो दिस इज व्हाई दिस फील्स स्कैरी, right? So we will obviously our course will address all of this, how to come out of all this. तो अब इसमें एक्चुअली टेस्टिंग क्या होती है? तो रीडिंग एबिलिटी अंडर टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट्स, एज आई मेंशन कि 3 में 4 मिनट में आरसी पढ़नी है और उसका सेंस बनाना है, राइट, कंफर्ट विद अ ब्रॉड रेंज ऑफ सब्जेक्ट मटेरियल, दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. Usually we don't read that kind of stuff. Okay, even people who read, maybe somebody is fond of maybe some maybe you like to read about sports, or maybe you like to read about politics, वो भी Indian politics and maybe some uh, international politics for that matter. Maybe somebody who's interested in markets, who's interested in finance or economics, may like to read things on economics or finance. Maybe somebody who's very much enamored by show business or entertainment side of it, and maybe like to read about those things. But here you need to be comfortable reading history passages based on history, passages based on psychology, philosophy, literature, art, music, uh, business, economics, science, technology, genetics. Could be anything. It could be anything. So I'm not trying to scare you. All I'm trying to say is, again, we'll address it, that they're not expecting you to become a subject matter expert of all those areas. But if you have been reading about those things, right, if you have already got a little bit of a idea about what he's talking about, then you will be able to immerse yourself in the passage much more quickly and make sense of it. So let's say, for example, that we do many sessions which are called theme-based RCs. Theme-based RCs. Now, what are these? So we pick up a theme, right? So let's say one day we pick up a theme called communism, socialism, and capitalism. Now, if I ask you to kind of read about this or figure out what it is, you may go to different sources. Easiest is go to Chat GPT, ask it. But many times the whole perspective is not clear. You do not know how much to read, what is more critical for you, where to stop, where to start. Right? अपने आप करने में unstructured तरीके से सीखने में ये प्रॉब्लम होती है. So what we do is we will pick up this theme. I will give a gap which I think you should know, 15-20 minutes. Maybe I talk about what are these and इसके origins और क्या अभी situation है and all that, pluses and minuses of each of these, and then we will do theme based RCs. We will do RCs based upon these. So अगर आपने 3-4 RCs के ऊपर कर ली and then I've given you some background on it, so then you are quite prepared now to handle any RC or any VA question based upon this. आपको ये चीजें एलियन नहीं लगेगी, नहीं तो let's say we talk about right-wing ideology, left-wing ideology, we talk about liberalism, we talk about conservatism, right? Democrats, let's say political parties in the US, Democrats and Republicans, or India में for that matter, BJP and Congress and other parties, left-wing ideology, right-wing ideology. तो अब ये क्या होती है क्या नहीं होती, अगर हम so if let's say they are explained to you in a way in which आपको 15-20 मिनट में पूरा क्लियर आइडिया हो जाएगा क्या है ये, and then we do RCs based on that, तो आपकी लर्निंग reinforce. One day we pick up capitalism, imperialism. Like one day we pick up the philosophy, right? And what are the various areas of philosophy? Who are the various philosophers, main philosophers, literature, art. वैसे हम ठीक है लैंग्वेज लिंग्विस्टिक्स के ऊपर एक दिन करते हैं. तो ऐसे अलग अलग थीम बेस्ड करने में what we are trying to do is give you great comfort with this broad range of subject material. जितना आपको चाहिए to handle these RCs. I'm not here to make you a PhD in all of those, but just to give you, and this will help you not just in handling RCs, but your next rounds, which are the GDPI VAT rounds. GDPI VAT rounds में आपकी ये सारी knowledge test होगी. How much you are able to, understand all these things, because these are extremely critical things for a manager. आप लोग जो एस्पायर कर रहे हो मैनेजर बनना, तो मैनेजर तो होता है उसका, और बाकी के लेट्स से देयर इज अ सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपर, प्रोग्रामर है या कोई आईटी इंजीनियर है, उसमें और एक मैनेजर में फर्क होता है. मैनेजर को मैनेजर हैज टू नो अबाउट अ वाइड 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 वैरायटी ऑफ थिंग्स, बिकॉज एनीथिंग दैट हैपेंस इन द वर्ल्ड अफेक्ट्स एवरीथिंग एल्स, राइट? सो एज दे से कि अगर एक बटरफ्लाई भी फ्लटर करती है अपने विंग्स अमेजन रेन फॉरेस्ट में, तो उसका इम्पैक्ट हर चीज पे दुनिया में होता है. दिस इज अ सेइंग लाइक दैट. So, आज somebody might ask you, why is gold price shooting? Why is silver price shooting? I don't know how much you follow the markets, but that gold has doubled almost in the last 1 year. Silver has almost tripled in the last 1 year. Metals are moving in a different zone altogether. Equities are not giving great returns, especially Indian. तो ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है, right? Why are the central banks of the world hoarding gold, right? क्यों gold कर रहे हैं? What is dollar de-dollarization? All of that. तो ये सारी चीजें आपको इंटरव्यू में भी काम आएंगी. सो विच इज बाय द एजुकेशन बिगिंस राइट फ्रॉम नाउ. लॉजिकल रीजनिंग विद लैंग्वेज. नाउ लैंग्वेज में आपको जो वर्ड्स है, राइट, उसके उसके अंदर आपको घुसना है, राइट? टू पील लेयर्स बीनीथ द टेक्स्ट. When we read anything, right, there is something called as a literal text. That means the text which is there, and then there is something called as a figurative, जो उसके नीचे है, right? So if somebody, if यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है कि she has a heart of gold. Now somebody who's not aware of nuances might take this literally. यार heart of gold सोने का दिल है, ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? Somebody might even raise a question that यार इंसानों के दिल तो टिश्यूज और सेल्स और मेम्ब्रेन्स और ब्लड और पता नहीं किस किस चीज से मसल्स के होते हैं, तो इसका हार्ट गोल्ड का कैसे होगा? हाउ इज शी लिविंग? सो दैट्स द रॉन्ग इंटरप्रिटेशन, बिकॉज यू नीड टू गो अ लेयर बिलो दिस एंड अंडरस्टैंड दैट heart of gold means she is very very pure hearted, she is very generous hearted, she is caring, she is very kind and giving and all of that. Somebody says she has a heart of stone or he has a heart of stone, it doesn't mean literally that uska heart stone ka hai. It means that बहुत ruthless है, it doesn't care about people. So you need to peel layers beneath the text. There are many such figures of speech. Like figures of speech आपको पता होने चाहिए सारे, simile, metaphor, metonymy, synecdoche, personification, oxymoron. So there are n number of reports. बहुत सारे फिगर्स ऑफ स्पीच हैं जो कि हम पढ़ेंगे. तो यू शुड नो दैट दिस सेंटेंस का जो लिटरल लिखा हुआ है और उसके नीचे का क्या मीनिंग है, बिकॉज अ गुड रीडर will surely be able to dig and able to understand. तो लॉजिकल रीजनिंग करनी है लैंग्वेज में कोई अगर वर्ड लिखा हुआ है however, राइट, या फिर लिखा हुआ है nonetheless, तो इसके क्या मतलब है? अगला सेंटेंस जो आने वाला है however में, which will be contrast of whatever is coming, whatever came before this, right? However आने से contrasting word आ गया. Nonetheless is the same thing. Notwithstanding is the same thing. So these are some contrasting words. तो आपको लॉजिकल रीजनिंग है कि अगला सेंटेंस आपका अब ऑपोजिट होगा इससे. So all of these things you should be able to relate. Decision making under uncertainty. Many times people feel कि ये बड़े वेग है, ambiguous है, पूरी इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं है, अनसर्टेनिटी. तो वही आपकी चेक हो रहा है कि डिसीजन मेकिंग कैसे आप कर सकते हो विद एंड हाउ मच यू कैन डील विद अनसर्टेनिटी. Okay, so these are some of the things that are being tested. What it is not. Okay, now many people mistake and they think that it is all about reading speed, right, which is the misconception of the greatest order here. अगर हम let's say if I test the reading speed of each of you, I would say on average your reading speed would turn out to maybe 125 to 150 words per hour roughly. इतनी निकलेगी. मे बी किसी की 100 निकल सकती है, किसी की, और किसी की 300 भी निकल सकती है. These are the people who have been reading regularly and these are the people who are not reading too much. जो एक average reader है उसकी इतनी निकल जाएगी. Now when we talk about CAT passage, it is around 500 words. Now, if we are able to read at this speed, then we can easily read a CAT passage in 3 to 4 minutes. Right? Divide kar lo, simple division. And which is what my ask was, that if you have to do a passage in 8 minutes, then you can spend 3 to 4 minutes reading it and then rest the 4 minutes solving it. So where is that demand being made on you for having a very high reading speed? Not at all. So many people confuse this and they simply start reading or trying to read faster without understanding things, which is the wrong way and a short way to disaster. Your reading speed has to be calibrated. Right? Your reading speed has to be something. See, I'm not saying that, okay, you spend 10 minutes reading, or okay, if you are, then we will try to see how to lift you up and how to make you read that or make sense, maybe 3, 4, maybe if not 3, 4 initially, 5, 6 minutes, and then bring it down to 3, 4. Again, this is a function of your reading. However, conscious efforts you make, it may not give you the result. But if you read and read and read, it will automatically improve. ओके देयर इज नो टू वेज अबाउट इट आप अगर गाड़ी चलाना सीख रहे हो तो पहले दिन ही सोचो कि आप बहुत अच्छे से गाड़ी चला लोगे, तो वो नहीं होगा. इफ यू आर हेल बेंट ऑन डूइंग थिंग्स इन 1 डे और 2 डे क्रैश कोर्स, वो नहीं होता है. ओके, इफ यू प्रैक्टिस इन द राइट वे ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, यू विल ऑटोमेटिकली गेन दैट कॉन्फिडेंस एंड स्पीड और व्हाटएवर इज नीडेड टू फेस दैट. राइट? तो ये एक मिसकंसेप्शन है कि हमें, ठीक है, देयर आर सर्टेन वेज ऑफ इम्प्रूविंग एंड करना चाहिए. ठीक है, आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट यू शुड नॉट फोकस ऑन रीडिंग स्किल इंप्रूवमेंट. दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज यू नीड टू कवर अ लॉट ऑफ ग्राउंड. ये इंपॉर्टेंट इसलिए नहीं है कि एग्जाम में आपको इसको इंप्लीमेंट करना है. ये इंपॉर्टेंट इसलिए है because you need to read a lot. Right? When we go through our course, we will realize that we have to read a lot, and obviously the faster you are able to read, the better ground you will, more ground you will. Second thing is, it is not a subject matter of test of subject matter expertise. Like I explained, कि ऐसा नहीं है कि आपकी कोई पॉलिटिक्स की या इकोनॉमिक्स की या कोई साइंस की या टेक्नोलॉजी की या जेनेटिक्स की, कोई बायोलॉजी की कुछ आपकी एक्सपर्टीज टेस्ट की जा रही है. It's not never like that. Right? You will whatever you need to know about the topic, you know, and as they say that this passage does not need any prior knowledge of this subject. Right? तो ये भी एक कई लोग फील करते हैं कि अरे इसके बारे में तो हमें कुछ नहीं पता, ये एरिया में तो हमने कुछ नहीं पढ़ा. कोई बात नहीं, we will read about that. We'll read about everything under the sun, and you will get whatever is needed to help you tackle that. It is not about vocabulary memorization, as I mentioned earlier. Vocab, you can't just memorize and think that you waste it. It is not a test of shortcuts or hacks, right? And it's not a game of guesswork. बहुत सारे लोगों को लगता है, and then as a common problem which I hear from many people, that I get confused between two options. Right? This is the most common problem that people narrate. Right? कि दो ऑप्शन तक तो हम आ जाते हैं, पर दो में फिर समझ नहीं आता. And then obviously some guesswork comes into picture, and then half right, half wrong, and then ultimately end up mess up the good thing. Right? So this is not a game of guesswork. There is a clear reasoning. Right? There is a very clear reasoning and logic behind the correct answer. Right? एक आंसर वो एक ही सही है, because this is an objective type of question. There is no subjectivity here. हाँ, थोड़ी ambiguity, थोड़ा vagueness होती है, but we will need to work our way around that to see that we are objectively able to choose the correct answer. All right. Single biggest truth, like as I said, speed is a byproduct of clarity and it is not a goal. Right? So we should not chase it very, very consciously. हाँ, कुछ कुछ चीजें आप कर सकते हैं. कुछ कुछ चीजें हम रीडिंग स्पीड बढ़ाने के लिए कर सकते हैं. One thing that we do is we avoid regression. We avoid regression. Like, what is regression? Regression is going back to the same text again and again. See, एक ये जल्दी कब होता है? अब आप, I'm sure all of you have read passages or something or the other. Initially जब आप read करना शुरू करते हो तो आपको ऐसा लगता है कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा, कोई दिमाग में नहीं बैठ रहा. And you keep going back, right? एक दो तीन सेंटेंस पढ़ने के बाद में you keep going back to the beginning. Why this happens is because we have been, at least Indian students have been trained to mug up or memorize things right from the beginning. And if something is, you feel that you are not able to memorize, you feel, oh, ये तो कुछ समझ ही नहीं आ रहा है, which is again a big misconception. तो memorize नहीं करना है, right? Now you need to keep moving on. अगर एक दो सेंटेंस नहीं भी समझ में आए, keep moving on. You will make sense of it as you go on. But if you keep coming back and trying to read it again and again, then that wastes time and hampers your speed. तो ये चीज एक हम कर सकते हैं. We can avoid regression, going back. We can avoid vocalizing, right? Many times we vocalize, right? बोल के पढ़ते हैं. Now some people cannot help it. That's true. Uh, but wherever we can, we should avoid this thing, right? We should. Uh, the way we can do it is, ठीक है, इनिशियली देखो आप पढ़ते रहोगे. इसके प्रॉब्लम ये है कि आप एग्जाम में जब बैठोगे तो यू विल नॉट बी अलाउड टू काइंड ऑफ वोकलाइज, राइट? आपका बाजू वाला आपकी कंप्लेन कर देगा एंड यू मे बी आस्क्ड टू लीव. तो इसको हमें एड्रेस करना बहुत जरूरी है. इसके कारण आपकी स्पीड भी कम होगी. तो अगर कई लोगों को रियलाइज नहीं होता कि वो वोकलाइज कर रहे हैं, तो उन्हें दे शुड कीप अ पेंसिल और अ पेन इन द माउथ and between the lips and read. And if the pencil or pen drops, then it means they are vocalizing. So you can avoid, we should avoid vocalizing, right? That is again one technique that you can use. So, but ठीक है, ये सब कॉन्शियसली कर सकते हो, बट अपने आप जितना पढ़ोगे जितना करोगे काम उतना ठीक होता जाएगा. Alright, let's move to the next. Okay, this we had almost like covered in the previous slides. So you read without understanding. See, reading जब आप कर रहे हो, अभी हम जब सेशन करेंगे नेक्स्ट या फर्स्ट सेशन जब करेंगे आरसी में, then we will talk about how to read a passage, right? What is the right way to read a passage? Because different people read it in different ways. Some people try to get 100% understanding in the first go, and if they are not, then they keep reading it again and again. कुछ लोग ऐसे हैं जो 3 बार भी पैसेज पढ़ देते हैं. कुछ लोग ऐसे हैं जो बेसिकली पैसेज पढ़ने के बाद में, मतलब वो इस तरह से पढ़ते हैं कि फिर क्वेश्चन, ताकि उन्हें वापस रेफर ना करना पड़े क्वेश्चन, विच इज अगेन ऑल्सो रॉन्ग. सो while 100% understanding is desirable, it is not necessary, right? You may understand 60-70% of the passage and still do all the 4 questions correctly. तो रीडिंग करना है, अंडरस्टैंड करना है, लेकिन क्या अंडरस्टैंड करना है? तो लेट्स से द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग दैट यू नीड टू गेट आउट ऑफ इट इज द मेन आइडिया, right? What is the main idea of any piece of writing is the most critical thing about that piece of writing. What is the author trying to convey, right? Every story, every article, every publication, everything that you read has got a main idea. The author is trying to convey something. See, these are not fiction. एक चीज हमें समझनी चाहिए कि there is a difference between fiction and non-fiction, right? Fiction and non-fiction. Fiction is something which is creative, which is like not a reality, and it is more in the form of a story. Non-fiction is not something like that. Now, whatever passage we get in VARC here, they are all non-fiction passages. They are not based on story, right? आपको कोई कहानी तो नहीं लिखेंगे वहाँ पे कि बाप था, वो 4 बेटे थे, and he called them when he was dying and gave them a bundle of sticks and all of that. Right? That's a story. So story do not come in this VARC section. It's non-fiction, right? तो अब आपको उसमें मेन आइडिया निकालना है कि what is the author trying to suggest. Let's say the author has talked about some government policies which he is not happy with, and he is criticizing those. So author's main idea here is to criticize the government policies regarding certain X, Y, Z. Right? That's become the main idea. Or let's say the author is trying to look into some phenomenon, something that has occurred, and he's trying to find reasons for it. So he's maybe evaluating 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons, and then finally, as per his view, something new that as per me, this occurrence happened because of this reason. Right? Or he may be talking about advantages and disadvantages or something. So whatever he's doing, there's a main idea behind this, and this is what you should try to catch. ये आपको समझ में आ गया तो you can hit, or you can take it that almost 50% आपका काम है. Over attempting, as we discussed, emotional decision making, कई बार based on let's say your subjective perceptions. कई बार हमारे कुछ सिचुएशन ऐसी है, हमने कुछ एक्सपीरियंस किया हुआ है, तो हमारे उसके बारे में कुछ बायसेस और some prejudices are there, right? Which we bring it and let it interfere with our making the right answer choices. Or sometimes when we bring in outside information, right? Sometimes जो पैसेज में नहीं दी हुई है उसको अज्यूम कर लेते हैं. This is again very important. Blindly copying others' strategies. See, you will have, during your endeavor here till CAT, you will come across umpteen number of influencers or coaches or mentors or teachers, okay, who are teaching at various institutes maybe, or who are running their own shows, or maybe who are some kind of influencers making the reels or YouTube videos or whatever it is, right? हर मीडिया पे, चाहे वो लिंक्डइन हो या वो कोई भी ट्विटर हो या एनी इंस्टाग्राम हो, हर जगह पे अलग अलग ज्ञान की बातें कर रहे हैं कि ऐसे ऐसे करना चाहिए, राइट? हम टॉपर हैं, मे बी दे कुड बी सम टॉपर्स आल्सो, नथिंग रॉन्ग इन दैट, बट लेट मी टेल यू वन थिंग, something which has worked for one person may not necessarily work for the other person. So if you are simply blindly copying other strategy, then you may not be doing the right thing. आपको अपने आप को डिस्कवर करना है, बिकॉज ईच वन ऑफ अस इज यूनिक, राइट? तो आपको दूसरा कोई अगर बता रहा है अपनी स्ट्रेटजी कि मैंने ऐसे करके सक्सेस प्राप्त की है, तो मे और मे नॉट वर्क फॉर यू, सो यू नीड टू बी केयरफुल अबाउट दैट. Okay, so this is why people struggle, because they simply kind of copy or whatever has been told by some influencer somewhere, right? कॉमन VRC डोंट्स, इनको अनलर्न करना है अगर आप करते हो तो. डोंट रीड टू फिनिश फास्ट, लाइक से डोंट हंट कीवर्ड्स. कई जगह पे आपको पढ़ने को मिलेगा कि आइडेंटिफाई द कीवर्ड्स इन द पैसेज, आइडेंटिफाई द नाउन्स इन द पैसेज, और आइडेंटिफाई सम XYZ इन द पैसेज, आइडेंटिफाई सम कॉन्ट्रास्ट वर्ड्स इन द पैसेज. ये सब आपको बताया गया है, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है, राइट? देयर आर people who suggest some techniques which are called as skimming, scanning, ऐसी कुछ टेक्निक्स बताई जाती हैं कि आप एम्प्लॉय करिए. ओके, नाउ सी, if somebody tells you any shortcut or any rule, जो लोग शॉर्टकट भी लाइफ में यूज करते हैं और सक्सेसफुल यूज करते हैं, नॉट सेइंग कि नहीं होते, थोड़े बहुत जगह पे होते हैं, लेकिन उसके लिए आपको पहले लॉन्ग कट पता होना चाहिए, राइट? यू कैन ओनली बेंड द रूल्स वंस यू नो देम, राइट? लॉयर्स जो हैं आपके, वो या चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट है, वो आपको बताएंगे कि आपको कैसे टैक्स बचाना है, कि लॉयर बताएगा आपको कैसे बचना है इन चीजों से. तो क्योंकि उसको पता है, राइट? यू कैन नॉट नॉट नो थिंग्स एंड स्टिल रिकमेंड अ शॉर्टकट और यूज अ शॉर्टकट. तो स्किमिंग कब करनी है, स्कैनिंग? स्किमिंग मतलब क्या होता है कि आपने पहला सेंटेंस पढ़ लिया एक पैराग्राफ का, फिर उसके बाद में लास्ट सेंटेंस पढ़ लिया, फिर अगले पैराग्राफ का फर्स्ट सेंटेंस और लास्ट सेंटेंस, ऐसे करके आपने पढ़ लिया, और देन दे से दैट आपको पैसे समझ में आ गया. सो अनफॉर्चुनेटली नथिंग कैन बी फर्दर फ्रॉम ट्रूथ. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं होता है. डोंट गेट मिसगाइडेड बाय दैट, एटलीस्ट नॉट टिल वी हिट द अक्टूबर और नवंबर. जब जाके हम देखेंगे कि इसमें से कब, there are situations where it might help you also, where scanning also helps you. There are situations, we will discuss those situations, but not in the beginning, right? Unless we have our skills in place, if we try to use these shortcuts and all, then we will fail miserably. So let's not do these kind of things. Don't over infer. Many times people go overboard, trying to look for something much more deeper than what it is there. So उससे भी गड़बड़ हो जाती है. Don't attempt everything. Don't look for perfect answers, as I said. See, even if you look the phrasing, right? Question में जो phrase भी होते हैं कि which of these most strengthens the author's argument, or which of these least strengthens, or which of these is the best summary of the above paragraph. वो perfect नहीं बोलते वहां पे, right? Perfect कोई चीज अगर होगी तो उसको ढूंढने के लिए टाइम ही लगेगा. सपोज आई गिव यू अ paragraph, okay, this is a para, and these are four summaries, right? And I ask you कि ये जो पैराग्राफ है इसकी बेस्ट समरी कौन सी? नाउ सपोज देयर वाज अ परफेक्ट आंसर, तो वो परफेक्ट आंसर फिर इतना ऑब्वियस होगा कि उसको फिर मतलब आई वुड से 99.9% पीपल विल बी एबल टू इमीडिएटली recognize it and mark it. That is not what is needed in this exam. That is not how the exam is designed. तो परफेक्ट अगर कोई आंसर होगा तो वो आसानी से पकड़ लिया जाएगा, इसलिए परफेक्ट आंसर नहीं दिया जाता है. आपको हर आंसर में, हर ऑप्शन में देयर इज समथिंग और द अदर व्हिच इज रॉन्ग. Okay, something is missing in one, something is missing in the other, something is missing in the third. You need to carefully weigh one against the other. In this, you may find that two can be more easily eliminated, and the other two, as always, looking very close. So you need to weigh them each, go back to the paragraph, read it again, see which idea is more important than the other, which can be skipped, and then take a decision. Right? So if you looking for perfect, and then you will, so many times when I give the answer, then people will say, "अरे but इसमें तो ऐसा नहीं है, ये तो इसमें ये नहीं है, इसमें वो नहीं है." That's fine. Learn to live with uncertainties, as I mentioned in the beginning, and maybe not really complete information. Okay, so don't look for perfect answers. इस चक्कर में लोग बहुत गलतियां करते हैं. They will choose a sub-optimal answer कि perfect तो नहीं मिल रहा है, तो ऐसा नहीं करना है. What you should do instead is read for structure, track the author's intention, which is the main idea, control scope. You should limit the scope of the passage or whatever you are reading. Learn to skip confidently, right? कोई चीज कौन सी जब छोड़नी है ये समझ में आना चाहिए. Best answers, not the perfect ones. Okay, now how CAT RCs are built? Right? How do they create RCs? So there'll be a central idea. As I said, it can be called the main idea, it can be called the theme, or it could be called whatever. Now it is, then there are supporting ideas, right? Why the author says what he's saying. Suppose he says that the new GST reduction will not make any difference in the economy, and the GDP of India will not increase because of the reduction in GDP. Suppose this is his main idea. He's given an article about. But how has he supported it? On what basis is he saying, right? So the basis could be that he has given data, facts, and figures there. The basis could be he has given examples of some other countries where this was done and still the GDP could not increase, or it could be his own opinion. Right? It could be his own opinion. Being an expert in the field, he feels that these are the gaps which the government should address. Maybe the government is not doing enough reforms. Maybe the foreign investors aren't coming, or maybe something else, and therefore this GST reduction may not simply lead to an increase in GDP. Right? So he's giving his views based upon all of these things, or he could be giving some examples, or could be giving some research. Okay, the research was done across a cross section of consumers, and views were taken whether the GST reduction would make them buy more, consume more, and then so they said no, we will not consume more, rather we will save more because we don't know what the future is. So here the supporting idea is a research or a study that was conducted, right? Like we do the experimentation. So let's say if it is a scientific passage, then maybe there was some experiment that was done in labs to rule out the hypothesis what was there or to confirm the hypothesis, right? So all of these, they then form the supporting ideas, that how the main idea of the passage is being supported. Then there could be implications or applications, right? That because there are many application-based questions which are there, right? Almost every CAT VARC section would have some RCs based on which 2-3 questions आपको मिलेंगे कि यही situation को कहीं और apply करेंगे तो what could be, जैसे some hypothetical situation में author, so let's say ये author जो है GST reduction को लेके इसके ये views हैं, तो suppose government reduces income tax also, so what would the author say in such a scenario? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is like an application based where you need to understand what the author's mindset is and then apply it or extrapolate. And then there are some counterpoints which are there. So this is how the CAT RCs are built. Now, one very important thing to understand and preempt. हमें हमारा CAT RC section VARC improve करना है, तो उसके लिए हमें क्या करना चाहिए? तो we should read, right? Read what or read publications from where they source the passages and questions, passages and content. तो हमें ये देखना है कि ये कैट के पैसेज लाते कैसे, क्योंकि जैसा मैंने बताया आपको कि ये कैट में एक पेपर में ये पैसेज आ गया और उसके बेसिस पे ये क्वेश्चन आ गया, 1, 2, 3, 4 ऑप्शन लिख लिया, तो ये जो पैसेज है उसने खुद ने नहीं लिखा है, राइट? ही हैज ब्रॉट इट फ्रॉम समवेयर. So from where does he bring it, right? Which publication does he bring it? Now, over the period of time, things have evolved. Like, let's say if you look at CAT exams 8, 10, 12, 14 years back, they used to bring it from mostly Indian publications like Hindu or India Today or maybe some other magazines or things like that, which is why the recommendation of most of the people that time was that read editorials, right? Read the Hindu, read Indian Express. I'm not saying that they are not important. They have to be read also. However, they have now moved on, and most of the CAT passages are basically taken from foreign publications. Right? There are some very common and their favorite publications, which is The Economist, right? This is the most commonly common publication which they use. The Guardian, right? The Guardian, the Smithsonian Magazine, Scientific American, and of course, now there is something which is called as Aeon essays, right? I'm sure many of you would know what Aeon essays are all about. And should we read or should we not? So fine, that we will address in due course of time. So obviously now I share the articles. If you've been on the group for the past 3 4 days, you would have seen that I shared multiple articles, mostly from the Economist. Why I do share more from the Economist is because the length of the passages of CAT and the Economist are more near or more similar compared to let's say something like an AEON. An AEON essay is of almost 3,000 to 3,500 words, sometimes even more, or on the lesser side, it could be 2,500 or whatever. तो इतने वर्ड्स को अगर जैसे मैंने आपको बताया था कि 150 वर्ड्स पर मिनट अगर आपकी पढ़ने की स्पीड है, 150 वर्ड, तो आपको इस तरीके के पैसेज पढ़ने में 30 मिनट से भी ज्यादा लग जाएगा, 30 35 40 मिनट लग जाएंगे. दे आर वेरी डेंस एंड एब्स्ट्रैक्ट एंड बिलोंग टू सर्टन जॉनरीज और टॉपिक्स विच यू नॉट मे बी हर्ड अबाउट. तो एयोनेसिस भी उसकी अपनी यूटिलिटी है, कहाँ है कैसे है वो हम देखेंगे. But predominantly we should be very hands-on or reading the articles from these magazines. Fortunately, they are short, so you can read multiple articles a day on different areas and different genres, right? So as we go along, I'll keep sharing the relevant articles for you to read, so that जब ये पैसेज में आरसी बन के आएगा तो आपको ऐसा नहीं लगेगा कि यार ये किस तरह की रीडिंग, ये तो अलग ही है, हम तो कुछ और ही रीडिंग करते हैं, तो ऐसा नहीं लगेगा आपको, बिकॉज यही इसी के ऊपर बेस्ड होगा. तो इनकी जो लैंग्वेज, राइट, बिकॉज पीपल हु राइट दीज आर ट्रेन्ड जर्नलिस्ट, राइट, दे आर वेल वर्ल्ड अराउंड, दे आर नॉट लाइक यू एंड आई इन मेनी वेज. लाइक राइटिंग स्किल्स हमारी थोड़ी सी कमजोर होती है मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल की, तो वैसे नहीं, ये बड़े ट्रेन्ड है, तो इनकी जो लैंग्वेज है वो उसी तरह की लैंग्वेज पैसेज में आती है. तो यू विल बी फेमिलियर विद दैट, राइट. देन सम पैसेज आर सोर्स फ्रॉम बुक्स ऑल्सो, कुछ एक दो पैसेजेस होते हैं जो बुक से आते हैं, ठीक है, वो भी लैंग्वेज ऐसी ही होती है, राइट. सो दिस इज हाउ these CAT RCs and even the VA passages are built. I'll demonstrate to you also अभी कुछ पैसेज और कुछ क्वेश्चंस लेके कि कहाँ से वो लाए गए थे, किस तरीके से उन्होंने वो क्वेश्चन बनाए थे. तो सो सी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट ऑफ आवर कोर्स, मेरे कोर्स का एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट जो हमें प्रैक्टिस करना है. मेनी टाइम्स यू मे हैव हर्ड ऑल्सो, और कई लोगों ने आपको बताया होगा कि यार रीडिंग वीडिंग क्या करनी है, सिर्फ आरसी करो, आरसीज में आपको इनफ रीडिंग मिल जाएगी. तो लेट मी टेल यू एंड वार्न यू दैट दैट्स अ वेरी रॉन्ग एडवाइस. ओके, दैट इज अ वेरी रॉन्ग एडवाइस टू गिव एनीवन, saying that all your reading requirement can be fulfilled by way of practicing RCs. तो आप 1000 आरसी कर लो, 1500 आरसी कर लो, तो आपकी रीडिंग रहेगी, विच इज अ वेरी रॉन्ग वे ऑफ डूइंग इट. सी एज आई एक्सप्लेन, राइट, आरसी क्या कर रहा है, वो एक बड़ा सा आर्टिकल है. नाउ दिस आर्टिकल इज लेट्स से 800 वर्ड्स और 900 वर्ड्स, उसमें से सिलेक्ट करके ला रहा है वो 500 वर्ड, राइट. तो ऑलरेडी प्रूव कर दिया उसको उसने अपने हिसाब से. तो उसमें से कई बार तो जब आप कोई जो अच्छा से नहीं बनाया हुआ है कोई आरसी, जैसे मॉक्स में कई लोग बनाते हैं, यू विल फाइंड अ गैप, यू विल से यार ये तो कुछ कंटिन्यूटी नहीं लग रही है, इसने एक पैराग्राफ ऐसा लग रहा है यहाँ से ले आया, ऐसा है, यू विल बी एबल टू फील समथिंग इज रॉन्ग विद दैट, राइट. तो आपको बेसिकली किस तरीके से आरसी बननी है, किस तरह से आर्टिकल में से आरसी आती है, या बीए के पैसेज बनते हैं, वो हमें देखना है. एंड वी हैव टू आल्सो learn how to create those, right? So I will, as we go along, we will do exercises where you need to create questions, you need to create the options, you need to create VA questions. Obviously इसके लिए आपको मैं बताऊंगा कैसे करना है. तो आप जब वो खुद करोगे, राइट, तो रीडिंग एन आर्टिकल एंड देन आई टेल यू ओके, ये आर्टिकल में से आप VA पैरा जंबल बनाओ, या फिर पैरा ऑड बनाओ, या फिर पैरा कंप्लीशन बनाओ. नाउ not every paragraph can become a good para jumble or para completion kind of a question. डिफरेंट पैराग्राफ्स जो होते हैं, कई पैराग्राफ होते हैं उस लायक, कई नहीं होते हैं. तो आपको समझना पड़ेगा कि कौन से बन सकते हैं, कौन से नहीं बन सकते हैं, व्हाट आर द वेरियस थिंग्स दैट यू शुड लुक एट. तो वी विल डू अ लॉट ऑफ प्रैक्टिस ऑफ क्रिएटिंग क्वेश्चंस आल्सो, बिकॉज देन यू विल गो टू द अदर साइड एंड योर appreciation of what this whole process is will increase. So this is how we will work. Now, why generic courses? Generic courses क्या होते हैं? देखो बहुत सारे लोग ऐसे courses बेचते हैं. I mean, the most common one is something called as VARC 1000, right? Gijo. I don't know. There are hundreds of people who use that, and most of them then ultimately land up when they come to me saying that it's another big beginning, right? क्योंकि वो same advice है सभी के लिए. As I mentioned at the beginning that the field aspirants are different in different ways. Successful aspirants are same in many ways. तो अब अगर सेम ही एडवाइस सबको दी जा रही है तो उससे क्या फायदा हो? कोई थिंकिंग डायग्नोसिस नहीं, कोई फीडबैक नहीं. So which is why VARC is something where these generic courses may not work. You need a very personalized, hands-on guidance because these errors are personal. Somebody is making some kind of error, somebody is making some other kind of error. Everybody misreads differently. किसी ने इस चीज को क्या समझ लिया, किसी ने क्या समझ लिया. तो इसलिए उसके डायग्नोसिस करना बहुत जरूरी है. और देन दोज बैड हैबिट्स हैव टू बी रिमूव, इन विच इज व्हाई दिस पर्सनलाइज्ड गाइडेंस मैटर्स इन सब्जेक्ट लाइक वीआरसी. अब लॉन्ग जर्नी रियलिटी, right, as we will move into our course, it seems a very long journey. अभी बहुत दूर है, लेकिन you will realize very quickly, trust me. Time goes by in a jiffy. Every year, because I have this cycle, I begin this course in December, then we move along. April onwards दूसरी batch आती है, then we move along. July, maximum people join June, May, June, July, after their exams are over. And then again, before we know, we are doing those mocks, and we are into exam preparation mode, firefighting mode, and then CAT happens, and then the same thing happens. तो ये लॉन्ग जर्नी लगती है देखने में अभी से, बट इफ द टाइम इज नॉट यूटिलाइज प्रॉपरली, a proper process is not created, we may find that we have spent time maybe not really well. दूसरी बात यह है कि वीआरसी में देखिए इंप्रूवमेंट स्लो होता है. ऐसा नहीं है कि ओवरनाइट आज आपको कुछ सिखाऊंगा और कल से आपको अप्लाई कर लोगे एंड यू विल बी वेरी सक्सेसफुल. इट डजंट हैपन दैट वे. इट टेक्स लिटिल बिट टाइम, सो यू नीड टू बी वेरी पेशेंट हियर. मार्क्स फ्लक्चुएट. आपके मॉक्स आप करोगे, सेक्शनल्स करोगे, ऊपर नीचे होंगे, क्योंकि ऐसा लीनियर, एज आई सेड, लीनियर प्रोग्रेशन नहीं होता है. मॉक्स की जो क्वालिटी भी होती है वो भी बहुत वेरी करती है. आई डोंट नो, यू मे हैव सीन आईएमएस मॉक्स और सीएल मॉक्स. दीज आर, आई मीन, दीज आर, आई वुड से स्टूपिडली डिजाइंड. किसी में डिफिकल्टी लेवल यहाँ तक कर देंगे, किसी में गिरा देंगे, फिर किसी में बढ़ा देंगे. ये भी डिफिकल्टी भी ऐसे नहीं कि लॉजिकल डिफिकल्टी, ये एक वेगनेस और एम्बिग्युइटी से डिफिकल्टी क्रिएट कर देते हैं. तो आपको अपने ऊपर कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं आएगा. बट व्हेन यू डू माय मॉक्स, यू विल रियलाइज दैट देयर इज अ स्टडी दिस थिंग, राइट. आपको मतलब ऐसा ऊपर नीचे वाली फीलिंग नहीं रहेगी. मोर और लेस ठीक है, थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर नीचे होगा, बट मोर और लेस दे रिमेन एट द सेम लेवल. एंड वट एवर देन यू गेट इन द फाइनल दिस थिंग, रफली एवरेज आपका इसमें भी उतना ही आता है. यू गेट अ गुड इंसाइट इनटू व्हाट इज योर गोइंग टू बी योर स्कूल. मार्क्स फ्लक्चुएट होंगे. डिसिप्लिन बीट्स मोटिवेशन, राइट. डिसिप्लिन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. रेगुलरिटी, इवन 10 मिनट करो, राइट. तो इफ यू से दैट नो नो मुझे टाइम नहीं है, मुझे 10 मिनट से ज्यादा पढ़ने के लिए नहीं मिलता, कोई बात नहीं. आई विल नॉट फोर्स यू टू रीड मोर देन 10 मिनट्स, बट प्लीज रीड 10 मिनट्स religiously, right. If you say that, okay, I'll work for 15 minutes on my vocab every day, right, 15 minutes for vocab, then do it. You decide, okay, but then you stick to it. ठीक है, more or less I'm saying 5 days a week, at least 7 में से अगर आप उस पर स्टिक करोगे तो you will see the results. बट ऐसा नहीं है कि यार आज सडनली मोटिवेशन आ गया, 2 घंटे पढ़ेंगे, आई विल रीड फॉर 2 आवर्स. ठीक है भाई, पढ़ लिया. अगले दिन कुछ नहीं, मे भी 1 घंटा, आधा घंटा. फिर तीसरे दिन से, जैसे अगर हम बात करते हैं जिम, जो ओनर्स होते हैं, दे आर वेरी हैप्पी इन द फर्स्ट 10 days ऑफ जनवरी, वेरी वेरी हैप्पी. क्योंकि उस टाइम इतने लोग आते हैं उनको ज्वाइन करने, और उनको पता है, दे नो द ट्रेंड, दे नो दैट by the time 10th or 15th of January happens, most of those people would have paid hefty fee and then chickened out. ऐसा क्यों होता है? बिकॉज मोटिवेशन आपको बहुत है. 31 जनवरी को, सॉरी 31 दिसंबर को थोड़े बहुत पेग लगाने के बाद में, I mean, those who don't drink, pardon me, but people who consume a little bit, they feel very kind of motivated to totally transform themselves next year. And they say that, okay, कल से जिम चालू, कल से ये चालू, 2 जनवरी से, and then they will enroll in gyms or some other kind of such things. And then they will start realizing that यार ये तो मतलब हमने तो सोचा था कि बस ज्वाइन करने से काम हो जाएगा, ऐसा तो नहीं है. तो हार्ड वर्क करना पड़ रहा है, घिसना पड़ता है, राइट. यू नीड टू रियली काइंड ऑफ बी वेरी डिसिप्लिन्ड. वो लोगों से नहीं होगा, राइट. एंड 10 days 50 days में यू नो पीपल विल स्टार्ट टॉकिंग. तो वो नहीं है. दैट इज सी दैट देन यू विल रिमेन वेयर यू आर. सो इफ यू वांट टू प्रोग्रेस, देन मे बी create create achievable and realistic goals. The biggest problem comes when you create very unrealistic goals, right. अगर आपके गोल्स रियलिस्टिक हैं और मेजरेबल हैं और टाइम बाउंड हैं, तो आप सक्सेसफुल होगे ही होगे, आज नहीं तो कल. बट अगर आपके लॉफ्टी गोल्स हैं, राइट, एंड one day here, one day there, then you will not. Unfortunately, that's the way the world is. And as we know, the competition is getting stiffer and stiffer every year in every field, right? Whether you want to join a job or join a college or do anything for that matter, start your own venture also. कोई ऐसी फील्ड नहीं है जिसमें आसानी से बिना किसी इंटेंस कंपटीशन के आप घुस सको, राइट. तो अगर आप अपने आप को डिसिप्लिन नहीं बनाओगे, then you may not really reach where you want to reach, because otherwise you need to have some kind of a genius this thing. आप में कोई ऐसी बात होगी, आप जीनियस हो, अल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन हो, तो अलग बात है. But then people overlook that Sachin Tendulkar today is what he is, not because of his sheer genius, but because of, not because of just talent, but because of his hard work also. Because talent alone does not make anyone successful. You need to back it up with discipline and perseverance, right? तो जिस थोड़ा सा ज्ञान हो गया, बट ठीक है. Alright, so uh, I've been speaking as a monologue for now almost an hour. Let me hear from you your views on whatever I said. Whatever you want to share, let me have some views from any of you. बताइए, जो भी मैंने बताया उसके बारे में कुछ आपको आपके views हैं, you want to add on to it, or you want to kind of convey some message. Please go ahead. जो लोग एग्जाम दे चुके हैं, they can share their experiences uh, and can confirm whether whatever I said was kind of realistic or lofty. Or, yes, Vatsal, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi. So,
Yeah.
first of all, thank you. Really good insights. And yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree to many of the points, and some points that, I have faced over the journey and that I feel that, they still need to be worked upon. So, like, if we see the characteristic, right, of the successful VRC candidate, so I think the most important thing is that the comprehension should be good, and you also should have a reading pace.
Right.
So, I mean, but when we try to just go on both of them, they are very contrasting. So, earlier it might be better to just focus maybe comprehension and then speed. Or what do you suggest that from the start only they should come hand by hand, and how can we improve over that?
Yes. See, my point of view has been and will always remain that first focus on comprehension, speed will automatically happen. Right? I don't know if
Correct.
any of you have seen Three Idiots. I'm sure most of you would have, and you remember the most important piece of dialogue or the line from it, that don't chase success, right? Chase excellence, success will follow. So that's the writing
Correct.
principle actually in every sphere, that you chase excellence and success will follow. So here chase comprehension and speed will follow. ओके, तो आप अगर
Correct. So,
कॉन्शियसली स्पीड के पीछे भागोगे तो वो नहीं आएगी और कॉम्प्रिहेंशन भी खराब हो जाएगा. तो वैसे ही
hmm,
सक्सेस के पीछे भागने से नहीं होगा. आप एक्सीलेंस अपने आप को मेक योरसेल्फ बेटर ईच एंड एवरी डे. सक्सेस इज बाउंड टू कम. वो कहीं नहीं जाने वाली. इट्स जस्ट अ मैटर ऑफ टाइम, राइट? सो दैट्स हाउ आई लुक एट थिंग्स.
definitely. So like
राइट.
just from a broader point of view, what should be the ideal way to tackle on the comprehension part in the starting phase?
राइट.
So do the reading the articles and books, and do you think all of this would help in the initial months, or as you said, like it's very non-linear curve, right? So what should be the ideal strategy in the
Yes,
starting
yes,
part that
right.
maximizes later on?
Sure. So first step is obviously reading. Now, as I say, that I will share articles, right, on a daily basis. What is that you must read? Okay. These articles will belong to different genres. They will belong to different publications. Mostly, of course, economist. I love economist, and I feel that the best practice. So, but then there'll be from other things also. Now, what you need to do is, okay, one is just reading them. Other is crafting a main idea. Crafting a main idea. Okay. Now you need to be able to, in 2, 3 sentences max, one or two is also fine. 2, 3 sentences max, bring out what the author is trying to say. What I do is I tell students that you can create a main idea and share with me. Okay, you can send me over WhatsApp. I'll take a look and see whether you've done it right or wrong. Right, I'll do that initially few times, and then what on your own also you could do is we've got now access to all these chat GPTs and stuff like that. One thing which I'll tell you very honestly, that don't trust them blindly for doing ARC, in the sense that don't copy a question and 4 options and ask it and believe it. Yes, okay, many times it will give a correct answer in the sense that what is right, but many times it gives wrong answers also, especially the para-based questions, whether it is para completion or para jumble or para. odd one out. I say this with great confidence because I do this day in and day out. I create questions, I test questions, I create explanations. Uh, so don't trust it blindly. It is like it should not be. It should be treated like an assistant. But one thing it does pretty good is to give a main idea. So you create, I mean, you copy and paste any text over there, and you ask it to give a main idea in whatever number of sentences you want, 2, 3 sentences, or in whatever number of words you want. It will give you a very good मेन आइडिया तो आप ये भी कर सकते हो कि आई मीन ऑफ कोर्स यू कैन सेंड इट टू मी gradually as you become a little more comfortable you're doing it more and more then you can copy paste and get the main idea from the chat GPT itself uh, and then that's how you can improve so main idea crafting is one very important part of the whole thing right? ये आपको करना है इसके बाद में जैसा मैंने कहा we will create questions also we will create options also we will test those things also we will create VA questions also वो हम आगे करेंगे but to begin with read crafting main idea and then obviously solving questions so we will have a daily practice regimen daily means at least 5 दिन तो करेंगे हम 7 दिन नहीं होगा but 5 days is what we call daily so we will have some exercises where you implement these right तो आप जो भी स्किल सीख रहे हो तो थोड़ी बहुत आरसीज है थोड़ी बहुत VA क्वेश्चन ये करते रहेंगे हम so this is how you will keep learning and moving along. And obviously, in the classes, we will discuss the different areas जो हमारा जो course है, right? So the way it will be structured is that we will have initially 2 classes per week from December to April, right? तब तक हम 2 classes per week करते हैं, and then April onwards we extend it and we have 4 classes a week, and then we continue like that till the end CAT. तो इस तरीके से हम प्रोग्रेस करेंगे तो आपको क्लासेस हैं प्लस जो डेली VARC का जो एक्सरसाइज होगी प्लस जो रीडिंग है दिस विल इफ यू डू इट रिलीजियसली देन ट्रस्ट मी देयर इज नो पावर इन द वर्ल्ड दैट कैन स्टॉप यू फ्रॉम गेटिंग a great percentile right
Yeah, that makes
I hope
sense.
that answers your question anyone else
Definitely.
would like to say anything
Okay,
before
so
we move further yes Srijan
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for the guidance, sir. A great session. So first of all, I have attempted, CAT 2025. So the main issue for me was, to decide between two options. And the problem which you said is that some aspirants, over attempt the question. So I used to, attempt like 22 questions totally, and I would get like 12 right and 10 wrong, so it's kind of inconsistent. And I tried the eliminating method, so I'll just try to eliminate the wrong options and choose my hunch on the one right option. But that's kind of inconsistent because half the time it works and half the time it doesn't. So what should I do to upscale myself in
right
that
right
aspect?
good
Yeah.
right so that's a very common question as I said in the beginning itself that choosing between two options becomes the kind of a bottleneck for many students
Yeah.
so what we do is we look at those two options very very carefully in the sense that how they differ from each other okay generally what happens is suppose I put two a set of twins or a pair of twins before you right दो अगर आपको मैं जुड़वा बच्चे रख दूं सामने what
Okay.
happens is we are intent on looking at only their similarities, right? We will say, "Arey yaar, they look at their eyes, they look exactly the same, the nose, the face cut, the hair, the color of hair, all the cut. I mean, how do you distinguish between these two chaps?" And therein lies the problem because the idea should be to focus on differences. Okay, you should be able to spot the differences. Like we do this, we had these puzzles in different publications when we were younger. I remember spot 10 differences between two pictures or 5 differences between two pictures. Even now we get on different platforms. So that is the key here. That what is the difference first of all between these two options, right? And which one is supported by the passage? Because the wrong one will have some distortion, something or the other which is not mentioned in a way that the author wants you to interpret it. But it's there. Like it could be maybe opposite of what the author wants, but the phrasing is something which is to confuse you. Or
Yeah.
it could be a distortion, or it could be maybe a little broader than what the scope of the passage is, or it could be narrower than what the author intended, or it could have some other distortion in some form or the other. It could be using an extreme word out there. So we will have to, as we go along, we start, because when we do any RC in any session, right, whether it is a class or it is any exercise, we look at each and every option threadbare. Okay, why, what makes this option wrong? So once you keep practicing with me and looking at things from my point of view, that how I eliminate options, what do I look for, and what are those distortions that I'm immediately able to spot. Because once you have an eye that gets trained to pick up these distortions, then things will become easier. That's not to say that I will never get confused between two close options or things like that. That doesn't happen. But your ability to spot those, right? There are some things which you'll be able to spot it from mile away further, right? Because you are trained. So, wo training, that is all that this course is all about, right? Because uh, it, first of all, working on the right material, right? Which gives you the exposure to those things, that what are the distortions, how do they make the options wrong, right? When you keep practicing those again and again in different RCs, it becomes like a second nature. Then your hunch or your guesswork or whatever is there will go down, and you will be able to take more confident decisions, not hoping that this answer might get correct. You will be confident that okay, this is correct, this is what it should be, and this is the logic behind it, right? So
Okay.
this will come as we go along, and with the right practice and the right material. See, which is where let me tell you, it's extremely important to work on the right material, because if you work on material which is vague, ambiguous, and the explanations given are not satisfactory, or you don't agree with those explanations, nor you have someone to discuss those with, because here in my case, if there's any option which, let's say, doesn't seem to be right to you, or you differ in opinion on that, you can talk to me there and then. Let's say if you're doing it in a class, or if you are doing it on your own, you can send me a message, or you can, I mean, we can discuss it, fix a time to talk about it, or I'll send you a voice note on that. So that way, this personalized thing which is there will help you overcome, those situations where you are confused, right?
Yeah.
Now, the more you practice, the better you become, and the more accurate you will become. In VARC, we say that if you get a 75% to 80% accuracy, okay, you are there. You are there. I mean, you will cross 99 easily. Uh, because if your accuracy is 50%, or on the other hand, if your accuracy is 95%, which means what? If your accuracy is 50%, which means you are over attempting. You should not be doing these many questions. You should reduce the number of attempts. If you are attempting, if your accuracy is 95 to almost, let's say somebody says, yeah, मेरी accuracy is 100%. तो आप फिर बहुत ही ज़्यादा you are very conservative. You are doing only those questions you are 100% sure of, which means you are under attempting. So correct accuracy is basically between 75 to 80% for VARC, because in this scenario, even if let's say you take two wrong, suppose आप दो क्वेश्चन छोड़ने वाले थे, when you are very conservative, right? Maybe you could have got one right and one wrong. So one right would have given you +3, one wrong would have given you -1. So you would have got +2. If you had not attempted or touched those two questions, you would have missed those 2 marks, right? So which is why 100% accuracy is also not good, and 50% is obviously not good, because as you mentioned that 12 कर दिए, 22 कर दिए, 12 right है, 8 10 wrong है, तो obviously straight away you lose maybe 36 -7 or 8, let's say उसमें से सारे 8 नेगेटिव वाले थे, तो आपके स्कोर 28 पे आ गया, राइट? सो विच इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन 99 और 99 परसेंटाइल और 98.5 परसेंटाइल एंड 90 plus percentile. So that's the difference that happens because of this. So once we go through this, then you will start realizing what is your optimum level, how much should you attempt, कितने RC करने हैं, कितने नहीं करने हैं, because there are people to whom I'll say that you do all the 4 RCs, because I am very sure that they will be able to do it. But there are people who, even if they insist that मैं 4 कर लूँ क्या, I will say that no, don't do all 4, you will make a mess of it. And then there will be some to whom I'll say नहीं यार आप 2 ही करो. See, your VARC score also depends upon, your target VARC score also depends upon a lot of other things, right? What is your expertise or competence in the other 2 areas? Because uh, let's say somebody is extremely good at quant and DILR, then they don't need a 45 plus score in VARC. Even if they get 35, they'll be safe home. But if somebody has got a little constraints, little challenged in the ILR quant, and they think that barely cut off हो गया हमारे, little more than that, maybe 90 percentile तक आ जाएंगे दोनों में. Then you need a great VARC score. So I've had students who scored overall 99.5 with score in VARC of 55, and in the other two areas they were able to score 25 or 20, 25. So they were able to get 99.5 overall. So that's how this works, depending upon how much is your competence in the other two areas, right? But let me tell you one thing, that this is one area where you can really take it very high. Even if, let's say, you starting with let's say single digit in this CAT or previous CAT, or maybe between 10 and 20, but you can take it to quite high. I've got students whose kind of testimonies I've been sharing on different social media. There are students who've kind of got negative last year, I mean the years before that, and they've been able to score 25 to 30. And obviously people who have got 17 have got 35 to 40, and people who were at around 20, they've gone 40, 45. So right, those kind of examples abound. All right. So any further input before we move and discuss some other things? Okay, great. Now let me talk about a little bit about the structure of the whole thing, right? So this is for more benefit of people who are doing it for the first time. When we talk about VARC, then we have VA, right? In what all areas we will cover in VA. RC तो ठीक है, RC तो we know, एक RC होगी या 400 questions होंगे. But when we talk about VA, so what are the various areas in VA, right? So we have vocabulary we'll need to work upon. Like many people, I mean, you are all in the right at the right time, because this needs time. This needs a little long runway to build a good vocabulary. So we will discuss about how to go about doing that, how not to be kind of ignorant or overlook this area. Many people say कि यार vocabulary का क्या फायदा, वो तो आती नहीं है, कोई direct question नहीं आते हैं. कोई बात नहीं, but you may be stuck in any question or RC because of not being aware of the vocabulary. Grammar is very important, because how the sentences are strung together. If you don't understand the grammar behind those, there are sentences which are very long, 50-word sentences, multiple clauses connected by different connectors. And unless you know the little bit of grammar about them, which is the subject, which is the verb here, how many different clauses are there, you might find difficulty in unraveling or decoding that particular long, complicated sentence. So this is what makes things a little dense and challenging, because the sentences are not very straightforward. Right? When we start, let's say, a journey in this world, शुरू में हमें ABCD सिखाते हैं, then BAT, BAT, CAT, CAT सिखाया जाएगा. Then small sentences, right? My name is X and I study here and I live here. छोटे छोटे sentences, धीरे धीरे sentence की complexity बढ़ती जाती है. So the more number of words that appear in sentences, the more complicated it becomes, because they are strung together by different, कई बार punctuations का फर्क होगा, कई बार कोई modifiers बीच में लगा देंगे, कई बार कुछ और लगा. तो आपको ग्रामर अगर नहीं समझ में आती है, तो then you might find challenge in deciphering those, right? So इसलिए grammar is also equally important. Again, grammar is a little overlooked. People don't give too much attention to it. ये गलत है, ये गलत है. CAT as an exam doesn't test. Even GMAT doesn't test now. पहले GMAT में होता था. But the other exam, like XAT and MAT, SNAP, they test your grammar by direct questions also and vocab also. Then we have in CAT, of course, we have these para-based questions, which are para jumble, summary, odd sentence, and para completion. ये भी चेंज करते रहते हैं. किसी साल वो यही 3 दे देंगे, वो किसी साल वो ये 3 दे देंगे. And this year in CAT 25 they gave all 4 2 questions each. So number of questions 8 होते हैं इसमें. But they keep varying this every year. Sometimes they take away para jumble. Last year para jumble हटा दिया था. उसके पिछले साल odd one out हटा दिया था. तो ऐसे करके कुछ भी करते थे. Now we have another area called critical reasoning. Right? This is extremely important, because most of the questions, right, are based upon critical reasoning. जो RC में questions आते हैं. Critical reasoning क्या होता है? Critical reasoning is you are given a short passage, very short passage, and then questions based on that, which tests your critical reasoning skills. Critical reasoning मतलब क्या होता है? Your ability to analyze the whole thing properly, rationally, logically, and get some meaning out of it. So questions will be based on inference. Question will be based on strengthening or weakening the argument, right? Whatever is the author's argument or conclusion, how do you strengthen or weaken it? There could be some assumptions in it, right? Assumptions are unstated premises, something which has not been mentioned by the author there, but what it is necessary in order to arrive at the conclusion. So assumptions क्या होंगे? Then there are paradoxes here which you need to resolve, and there are some argument that you need to evaluate. तो critical reasoning बहुत important part है. Again, this is not tested directly in CAT, but it is tested directly in other exams, all other exams like GMAT and MAT, SNAP, and ZAT. Here in CAT, it is built in the RC itself. Deductive reasoning में दो पार्ट होते हैं. एक लॉजिकल कनेक्टिव्स होते हैं, राइट. देयर आर सम कनेक्टिव्स लाइक और if, then, or only if or unless, and then there are syllogisms जिसमें all A are B and all B are C टाइप के syllogisms होते हैं. तो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है लैंग्वेज में. इसके मीनिंग समझना, इन्फरेंसेस समझना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. बिकॉज व्हाट कुड बी written there may not necessarily mean what you think, right? Suppose I say that Ravi or Rohan will watch the match. Now, if this statement has to be taken as correct, how many people minimum will go to watch the match and how many maximum people can go to watch the match? Anyone? इसमें मिनिमम कितने लोग जा सकते हैं मैच, तो ये स्टेटमेंट करेक्ट होगा, और मैक्सिमम कितने जा सकते हैं?
1.
Minimum 1 or maximum also 1?
Maximum also 1, yeah.
Maximum also 1. Okay. Anyone wants to have give a different answer? Minimum 1, maximum 1. This is one answer that we got. So if this sentence has to be correct, how many people can at the minimum be going to watch the match, and how many people at the maximum? Because suppose I say that 0, minimum 0. No. So if we say that 0 will watch the match, ये तो गलत है ना. This statement is not correct then. 1 minimum, yes, which is correct. That at least one of them have to go. But in logical reasoning, basically maximum 2. Yes, Anushka has given the right answer. दोनों भी जा सकते हैं. If let's say Ravi and Rohan both go, then also this statement is correct. Now you might say यार ये फिर और लगा दिया, and थोड़ी लगा है. हाँ, and लगाता तो then both have to go. Then one is also wrong answer. Minimum और maximum उसमें same ही है, 2. यहाँ पे minimum 1 है, maximum 2. A simple example is that let's say if I tell you that your general knowledge will increase if you read the Times of India or the Indian Express. Now somebody comes who reads the Times of India but not the Indian Express, तो भी जनरल नॉलेज बढ़ेगी. Somebody who doesn't read Times but reads Indian Express, उसकी भी बढ़ेगी. But somebody who reads both, क्या उसकी नहीं बढ़ेगी? उसकी भी बढ़ेगी ना. तो और लगाने से बेसिकली या तो एक या फिर 2. दिस इज कॉल्ड इंक्लूसिव और. तो ये इस तरह की चीजें हम डिडक्टिव रीजनिंग में करते हैं कि जहाँ पे these connectors which are used, they may convey to you in your normal language something but could be different from what we interpret it in the logical scenario, right? So logical इनका जो interpretation है वो अलग होता है. So that is what we need to be on guard, because many questions are based upon these situations. Verbal reasoning, again, the same thing. You can all put this together and call it verbal reasoning, right? So this is how this is all what we will study in our course as we keep doing our verbal ability, right? I mean, RC is एक area और VA में the whole course will be structured around all of these, right? This all we will keep doing. Okay, any questions so far? इस पे ठीक है, great. Next पे चलते हैं. Now we have this chart which shows कितने questions let's say आते हैं, क्या उसकी time limit है in different exams. I have not captured GMAT here. GMAT के लिए अलग से बात कर सकते हैं इससे भी, but CAT that. Okay, so one more point is that this course also will include your GMAT thing. तो वो उसमें मैंने mention शायद नहीं किया था, but GMAT is also a part of it. So when you join, so GMAT के लिए भी जो आपको अलग से questions बनाने हैं ये वो हम सब वो भी कराए जाएंगे. So that's also included in this. 16 questions on RC होते हैं. When you talk about ZAT, then 14 या 15 होते हैं, and MAT में 12, and SNAP doesn't have any RC questions. Critical reasoning, direct questions, as I said, इसमें भी होते हैं. I mean, in different way, LR बोलते हैं. Grammar, vocab, parajumble, summary. So this chart gives you what are different kind of questions that appear in these different exams, right? So and total number of questions, and then what is the time limit, right? So as you can see, 40 minutes. ZAT is a beautiful exam where there is no time limit and there is no sectional listing. आप मूव कर सकते हो विद इन सेक्शंस. यहाँ पे सेक्शंस बहुत रिजिड हैं. पहले VARC आएगा अभी तक के सिनेरियो में, देन DILR and then quant. Whereas in ZAT you can start with quant, you can move to decision making, or you can go to VARC, whichever you want. और पूरी एग्जाम काफी लंबी है, 2 घंटे 50 मिनट की है, 170 मिनट्स. तो टाइम की कोई इसमें प्रॉब्लम नहीं होती. NMAT is and SNAP is a different ball game altogether, where easier but more number of questions. SNAP, you may be aware, आज भी SNAP हो रही है. There's a second attempt of SNAP going on today. 60 questions होते हैं 1 घंटे में करने आप. उसमें से 15 क्वेश्चन VARC के होते हैं और ये बहुत जल्दी हो जाते हैं, 7-8 मिनट में हो जाते हैं छोटे छोटे क्वेश्चन. NMAT में आपको 36 क्वेश्चन करने हैं 28 मिनट में, राइट. उसमें RC भी है, तो you need to quickly move on, not get stuck anywhere. So that's the structure of VA, right? Now, what we'll do is we'll take a look at, as I mentioned, I will show you some questions and the source from which and how did they create that question, right? So, uske liye, what we do is we'll do some questions also at the practice. So, I'm showing you this question. What you need to do is figure out the right sequence of this, right? Sorry, this is a parajumble question. आपको इसमें से बताना है कि क्या sequence सही है. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do this question. Okay, and then we'll go through कहाँ से उठाया था, कैसे बनाया था ये question. So take 2 minutes and answer this question. You can send your answers one-to-one to me on chat, one-to-one. All right, cool. So many of you have been able to give the correct answer here. So let's see, how do we go about doing such questions? This was, of course, a little simpler question. So we got this Veena Sahajwala, and then we got her vision, right? What we do is read the sentence and try to figure out which one could be the introductory statement. And then e-waste contains quantity. So this is an independent statement, doesn't have any connector. This also is an independent statement. This is a dependent statement because her vision, it needs in the previous sentence, some person who can be referred to. And she, again, same, right? So this has to begin with either 3 or 1. So e-waste contains what we do in a parajumble. Obviously, when we tackle parajumble class, then we'll discuss in detail. But we have a broader concept or a more general idea in the initial thing, and then we narrow down and go into specific things. It's like a funnel, right? So e-waste is a broader area. So we will start with 3, and then इसमें एक problem और है to start with 1. The problem is that this problem, right? Solving this problem. So if I put this in the beginning, then what is this problem that is being referred? We don't know. So therefore, इसलिए 1 से start नहीं करेंगे. We will start with 3 only, which shows a problem that these contain huge quantity. Currently, not enough of it is getting salvaged. सो दिस प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करने के लिए वीना सहजेवाला ने एक नया तरीका बता दिया है, राइट. शी प्लान्स टू बिल्ड माइक्रो फैक्ट्री. शी रेफर्स टू वीना micro factories, and her vision is for automated drones. So this, some people put two first and then four, but that is wrong, because uh, first you are going to tease apart, means take apart, tear out the tangible material, tangle of materials in this, and then these components will be picked by drones and robots. So 3142 becomes the correct answer. Now, if you see how this was created, so they took up this. This is an article at bbc.com. There's a publication. वहाँ पे एक आर्टिकल था इसके बारे में, वहां से उन्होंने लिया. This became the first sentence, right? This became the first sentence. Then this Veena Sahajwala believes a new way of solving this problem. This became the second sentence. Then they edited this, and then they didn't put this, right? This uh, sheep. यहाँ पे इन्होंने कहाँ से start कर दिया? She plans to build, right? तो ये यहाँ तक इन्होंने काट दिया इसको. And then they picked up from here. She plans to build micro factory that get these apart. And then her vision is this. तो इस तरह से इन्होंने चार सेंटेंस उठा के and they created this. So what we, in order to enhance our skills, need to do is when we read articles. So please be very, very mindful of these connectors, right? Whenever you come across any pronoun, let's say, or when you come across, let's say, she, these things, her vision, how the sentences are linked to each other. Right? That's very important to note. How the idea is transitioning, how the sentences are moving from one to the other. Because if you see these sentences, when you put them like this, so this is like a relay race, right? You would have seen the relay race where four people are running, right? Or four teams are running, and then they hand over the baton to the other person of their team in the end after running 100 meters or 400 meters. So यहाँ पे भी वही है, that first sentence where it ends, right? It's like handing over the baton to the next sentence. So there has to be a logical shift. You cannot have abrupt ideas. If one is talking about something else, two about something else, three then come back about one. Then two, where it ends, has to start logically the third ka beginning, right? So they have to all fit very nicely. It's like a piece of puzzle, right? बचपन में जिक्सॉ पजल हमने की, right? इस तरह के जिक्सॉ पजल बनते थे कि ये सपोज करो पीस है और ये इधर एक ही पीस है ऐसा. So this has to go and fit into this one, right? So exactly यहाँ पे भी होता है that you need to recognize कि ये पीस अगर ऐसा वाला है तो वहां पे ऐसा ओपनिंग हमें मिलनी चाहिए, something like that. So this is how these are constructed. Okay, let's look at a odd one out. Now this is one odd one out question where four sentences can be linked to make a coherent paragraph, and one is not needed here. So we need to figure out which is the odd sentence. So again, take 2 minutes and try to figure out. All right. So a few people have answered. So let's see what this passage is about. Self-care particularly links to loneliness behavioral. So this sentence is independent, but it seems a little odd to start with. So second से start कर सकते हैं. Latchkey children refers to children who routinely return home from school to empty homes and take care of themselves for extended periods of time. तो आज की तारीख में where both the parents are working, this is a very common phenomenon that children come back from school to empty homes, right? And then they have to take care of themselves. These are called latchkey children. Although self-care, this cannot come after this. In research and practice, the phrase children is self-care has come to replace latchkey. तो ये latchkey word अब change हो गया है. तो two से start करके we can go to fourth, right? In effort to reflect more accurately the nature of their circumstances. So instead of latchkey, they are being called children in self-care. Now, if you look at this sentence, although parents might believe that self-care would be beneficial for development, recent research has found the opposite. तो पेरेंट्स को लगता है कि सेल्फ केयर अच्छी चीज है, बेनिफिशियल है, बट रिसर्च से समथिंग एल्स, द ऑपोजिट. व्हाट इज द ऑपोजिट? वेयर इज द ऑपोजिट सेंटेंस हियर? वन, self care particularly links to loneliness, behavioral problems, and negative academic outcomes. So this 5 and 1 become like a mandatory pair, which means they have to come together, because this sentence says that parents believe that it is helpful, but research says otherwise. Why does research say otherwise? What has research found? It has found that self care links to all of these things. So this becomes a paragraph, and your three, although self-care generally points to negative outcomes, it is important to consider the bulk of research has yet to track long-term consequences. This tries to mitigate this by saying कि भाई इससे नेगेटिव आउटकम तो है, लेकिन इसको हमको लॉन्ग टर्म देखने पड़ेंगे. तो ये एंड में आ सकता था, बट एंड में अगर आएगा तो वो बाहर हो जाएगा पैराग्राफ से. तो दैट इज व्हाई द थर्ड बिकम्स द ऑड वन आउट. Okay, so obviously odd one outs are a little more challenging to handle than jumble, but we will see. I mean, we will करेंगे practice. So this is how they created this question. They brought from so they brought this article on Springer or whatever, some publication. So latchkey refers to children. In research and practice, the phrase has come to replace latchkey. Although parents might believe self-care would be beneficial, they found quite the opposite. Self-care particularly links to loneliness and with outcomes. Then regrettably and all that, that was again added, and this sentence was not included as a part of this, and then this sentence was given. So ये odd one out बन गया, right? So this is how this was created. So again, we learn how to create questions like these. एक कहीं से और उठा के डाल देंगे उसको, तो give you much better view of how to solve this. Okay, but obviously para jumble and para odd one out are a little tougher BA questions compared to the field. ये बात established है. So what we need to kind of be determined about is कि देखो कोई भी चीज के डिफरेंट लेवल्स ऑफ क्वेश्चन होते हैं, इजी, मॉडरेट, डिफिकल्ट. कोई चीज अगर बहुत डिफिकल्ट है, कोई एरिया हमें बहुत कंफर्टेबल नहीं लगता, तो वी शुड एटलीस्ट गेट इनफ कॉन्फिडेंस इन इट सो दैट वी कुड सॉल्व द इजी टू मॉडरेट क्वेश्चंस. मे बी डिफिकल्ट, वेरी डिफिकल्ट नहीं करना है, और जरूरत भी नहीं करने की, बिकॉज you don't need to attempt all 24, and there are some questions which are deliberately designed to suck your time, to make you kind of just stick to one question and not move forward. आपके लिए ट्रैप जैसा होता है. जैसे क्वांट में अगर कोई मैं क्वेश्चन ऐसा दे दूं जो कि 10-15 मिनट के सोल्यूशन के बाद आएगा, इवन दो यू नो, यू शुड नॉट अटेम्प्ट इट, because you shouldn't be spending 10 to 15 minutes on one question, right? But you should be able to figure it out. यार ये तो बहुत टाइम लगाएगा, and I should be able to move on. That skill has to come. That okay, even if you feel naturally not inclined towards solving jumbles and odd one out, but you should be able to figure out अगर easy है तो, because easy question नहीं छोड़ना है, और moderate है, और similarly in all these cases, right? किसी भी सेक्शन में you should be able to figure out कि this question will take time, and therefore I'll best put it in the to the end. अगर टाइम बचा तो देखेंगे, नहीं तो नहीं देखेंगे, राइट? वो जजमेंट आना बहुत ही. Okay, let's do this completion question wherein you need to put this sentence in one of these blanks. ना ये सेंटेंस को आपको उठा के किसी ब्लैंक में डालना. So let's try this out. Okay, so let's understand this passage. What are we trying to say here? Right? Little more challenging than the first one. Uh, so early in this century, a young Breton schoolboy who preparing himself for a scientific career began noticing a strange fact about hens in his father's poultry yard. So this fellow, his father had a poultry yard, and there were some hens there, and he began to notice a strange fact. Yet each day is too early to come into one. Right? If there is no place for it in one. Um, as they scratched the soil, they constantly seemed to be pecking at specks of mica, a siliceous material dotting the ground. So these hens, as we know, they peck the ground. चुगते रहते हैं कुछ ना कुछ जमीन में से वो जो भी बर्ड्स होते हैं वो जमीन पे अगर तो चुगते रहते हैं बीक से अपनी तो वो पेकिंग बोलते हैं उसको तो दे पेकिंग ऑफ स्पेक्स ऑफ माइका जो सैंड होती है सैंड में एक माइका होता है तो वो मटेरियल को पैक कर देते हैं yet each day the flock produced uh, eggs with calcareous shells. तो this again टू में आने का कुछ सेंस दिख नहीं रहा है. Yet each day, yet means फिर भी each day. तो no one could explain to Louis Carveran why the chicken selected the mica. अभी देखो यहीं से कंटिन्यूस है यही थॉट. Or why each time word was killed for the family cooking pot, no trace of mica could be found in its leather. तो कोई इसको समझा नहीं पाया कि जब चिकन पैक करते हैं माइका पे तो जब उनको मारा जाता है तो ना तो उसके अंदर से कोई ट्रेस निकलता है कहीं पे भी कुछ भी नहीं निकलता तो वो कहाँ गया माइका. Yet each day the flock produced eggs with calcareous shells, though they apparently had not ingested any calcium. लेकिन हर दिन ये भी देखा गया कि वो एग्स निकलते हैं उनमें से एग्स में से एग्स निकलते हैं कैल्शियस शेल जबकि कैल्शियम तो वो इंजेस्ट ही नहीं कर रही. तो इसका क्या मतलब हुआ फिर तो ये यहाँ पे आ जाएगा इट टू कैवरन मेनी इयर्स टू एस्टैब्लिश दैट चिकन्स आर ट्रांसम्यूटिंग वन एलिमेंट टू अनदर. मतलब उसको बाद में समझ में आया कि माइका को ट्रांसम्यूट करके वो लोग कैल्शियम में बना रहे थे और उसी कारण अंडे हो रहे थे. सो दिस थ्री इज द प्लेस वेयर इट वुड सिट. राइट. तो इसको देखा जाए तो कहाँ से लिया गया था. दिस वॉज टेकन फ्रॉम दिस सीक्रेट लाइफ ऑफ प्लांट्स करके एक बुक है वहां पे दिया गया. अर्ली दिस सेंचुरी began to notice as they scratch they seem to be pecking at this. No one could explain to Louis Carmen और why each time. यहाँ पे थोड़ा चेंज कर दिया उन्होंने यहाँ पे yet लिख दिया yet each time a bird was killed no trace. Wait, no sorry यहाँ से नहीं ये यहाँ से yet yet each time the flock produced eggs they not use it took them several years to establish it. इसलिए यहाँ पे आएगा. Okay, so just to, I mean, this was just a demonstration of how um, we when we read any article or when we read any passage, we should try to notice, the way it is constructed. मतलब एक बार क्या होता है हम सिर्फ पढ़ पढ़ के उसको निकल जाते हैं आगे. We should be very carefully looking at the transition of sentences whenever we reading. Suppose ये आर्टिकल मैंने आपको पढ़ने को दिया होता तो आप देखते हो कि as they scratch तो ये they कौन है तो you know that this they is the hens, right? You should be able to answer that. They constantly, so this day that constantly seem to be pecking. No one could explain why the chicken selected white cow each time. Uh, yet each day या तो yet कर दिया उसने. तो इस तरीके से नोटिस करना जरूरी है. Now let's do one para summary question. All right. Again, many of you have given the correct answer here. John Cleese told Fox News Digital that comedians do not have the freedom to be funny in 2022. There's always been limitation of what they are allowed to say. I think it's particularly worrying at the moment because you can only create an atmosphere of freedom when you are not checking everything you say critically before you move on. So we can very well relate to this. हमारे यहाँ पे भी मुनव्वर फारूकी और ऐसे अलग अलग जो स्टैंड अप्स हैं उनको उनके अगेंस्ट केस हो जाते हैं, उन्हें जेल में डाल देते हैं, बैन कर देते हैं, राइट, कैंसिल कल्चर होता है। तो जॉन क्लीज जो है ये एक अमेरिकन एक्टर भी है। इनफैक्ट इफ यू हैव सीन जेम्स बॉन्ड मूवीज तो उसमें वो क्यू बन के आता था, जो साइंटिस्ट अलग अलग चीजें बनाता था, लिटिल whimsical काइंड ऑफ क्रीचर इफ यू रिमेंबर। तो जॉन क्लीज कह रहा है कि कॉमेडियंस को कोई फनी होने की अभी फ्रीडम नहीं है, और दे हैव टू बी इन अ वरी ऑलवेज वेदर पीपल विल टेक ऑफेंस, और आपको बहुत ही ध्यान से कुछ भी बोलनी है। व्हाट यू हैव टू बी एबल टू डू इज बिल्ड विदाउट नोइंग वेयर यू आर गोइंग, बिकॉज़ यू नेवर बीन देयर बिफोर। दैट्स व्हाट क्रिएटिविटी इज। यू हैव टू बी अलाउड टू बिल्ड। क्रिएटिविटी ऐसी नहीं है, क्रिएटिविटी में तो आपको बिना चिंता के बोलना चाहिए और अपना बिल्ड करना चाहिए जो चीज आपने पहले कभी नहीं बनाई है। So you should be free to do that. A lot of comedians now are sitting there, and when they think of something, they say something like, "Can I get away with it? I don't think so. So and so got into trouble, and he said that. Oh, she said that. You know what I mean?" And that's the death of creativity. तो अगर एक कॉमेडियन जो है वो बैठ के कुछ भी बोलने के पहले सोच रहा है कि यार उसने ऐसा बोला था और वो अंदर हो गया और इसको ये प्रॉब्लम हो गई है, ट्रबल में चला गया, तो मैं क्या करूं कि नहीं करूं, तो दिस इज व्हाट इज द डेथ ऑफ क्रिएटिविटी. So we try to capture the ideas here, where this John Cleese is saying that जो comedians हैं, they are basically not able to convey things without being worried about the repercussions, and this seems like to be the death of creativity, because creativity means creating something new, and that should be there without any botheration. Comedians are being prevented from saying what they want, and this is the death of this art form. First of all, death of creativity बोला गया है, not the death of this art form means comedians. Comedy की death specifically नहीं बोला गया है. So if you look at option one, it is straight away distortion, whereas this death of creativity has been changed into or distorted into death of the art form. दूसरा, comedians are being prevented from saying what they want. Who is preventing them? No, nobody is telling them openly that you shouldn't say this. So they are being prevented within by themselves, right? या फिर comedians are not saying what they want because of fear of backlash. So that is not what is given here. So this is wrong on many counts, easy to eliminate. Comedians must not check what they think and say. They must go where no one has gone before. This is not what, this is a recommendation. This passage is not about recommendation. See, कुछ चीजें होती हैं, आप किसी पैसेज में प्रिस्क्राइब कर रहे हो, सजेस्ट कर रहे हो किसी को, यहाँ पे कोई सजेशन नहीं है, यहाँ पे तो एक जो चिंता की बात है उसने उठाई है कि कॉमेडियंस नहीं बोल पा रहे हैं ऐसा, और ये एक डेथ ऑफ क्रिएटिविटी हो रहा है। तो ये नहीं है कि कॉमेडियन चाहो तुम जो बोलना बोलो और मत सोचो कुछ भी, इस तरह का नहीं है। तो इसलिए दिस सेकंड गोज आउट. Freedom and creativity are essential for comedy. Okay, fear about offending people hinders originality. This looks okay, we'll keep it. Creativity and critical thinking cannot work together. देखो ये तो डिस्टॉर्शन हो गया ना, cannot work together. ये तो मतलब इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग बता दिया, एक्सट्रीम हो गया ये तो. कॉमेडियंस मस्ट फर्स्ट बी क्रिएटिव लेटर बी क्रिटिकल. सी, कॉमेडियंस को क्रिटिकल होने को नहीं बोल रहा है, राइट? इट इज पीपल हु आर क्रिटिकल. यहाँ से इन्होंने एक्चुअली डिस्टॉर्शन लाया है, वेयर यू आर नॉट चेकिंग एवरीथिंग यू से क्रिटिकली बिफोर यू मूव ऑन. तो वो ये नहीं बोल रहा है कि आई मीन दिस गिव्स अ रॉन्ग इंप्रेशन दैट यू शुड बी फर्स्ट क्रिएटिव देन बी क्रिटिकल, देन यू शुड इवैल्यूएट, ऐसा नहीं बोल रहा. वो तो सिंपली यही कह रहा है कि फ्रीडम नहीं है उनको बोलने का, और इसलिए क्रिएटिविटी की को हिंडर हो रही है, राइट? तो यहाँ पे ये भी नहीं बताया है इस वाले ऑप्शन में कि क्रिएटिविटी की डेथ हो रही है या क्रिएटिविटी चैलेंज हो रहा है, तो इसलिए ये भी गलत है. 3 बिकम्स द करेक्ट आंसर. Now, all these 4 questions which I had shown today are picked up from CAT 23 and 24. So कुछ 23 में से हैं, कुछ 24 में से हैं, ऐसे ही. So they are all actual CAT things. Okay, so you don't have to worry about ये कौन से source है. Source anyway, I'll keep saying जो मैं create करता हूँ, I'll tell you that I've created these or I have brought these from somewhere, because content बहुत सारा रहेगा. Some content I take from other sources also, but I kind of amend it suitably if I feel that there's a vagueness about it or ambiguity about it, or it's not the right question or it's not the right answer, then I change it also. तो अलग अलग तरीके के कंटेंट रहेंगे, and then there will be a lot of content which we have from the original questions. Okay, now we, of course, we will not do this passage. I just wanted to show you this. The time abhi khatam ho gaya hamara, so I'll just show you this. This was a passage from 23 about externalities, and again, this was picked up from New York Times Magazine. काफी लंबा आर्टिकल था. This was a very huge article. इसमें से कुछ पीस उसने इतना किया था, and then he had created 4 questions in it. Okay, so we will leave it as it is, not attempt it, just to show you. So with this, I will at least from my side bring the session to an end. Okay, there's one piece of information, not very good, but whatever it is, that we had planned this 12:30, but some bit of a challenge there. There's some urgency that's come up, so that session we are shifting it to next week. So जो लोग quant का, of course आप में से कई लोग सिर्फ VARC के लिए आना चाह रहे थे, but I wanted you to, कुछ लोग हैं जो सभी करेंगे attend, but I wanted you to attend as a trial this thing, which you can do so next week. So next week हम quant भी करेंगे, DILR भी करेंगे, so you can prepare for that. You can attend a few sessions and see whether you like them or not, and then you can take a call whether you want to just join VRC, fine, or you want to follow that also, right? So, but आज वो नहीं हो पा रहा है, so that's really regret from our side. Okay, so with that, we come to an end to today's session. Any feedback, any comment, any doubt which you have, free to raise it. I will keep giving you articles to read in the group. I'll keep giving you some small things or exercises to do. Maybe engagement should be there, right? I don't want you to kind of have a gap of a week and then suddenly come for the class next week. There'll be some exercises given. There'll be some reading. Of course, every day I'll give some reading material. तो वो सब आपको करना है, right? Some main idea writing also I will do. So please keep doing these things regularly. Regular engagement is very important. वीकडेज में अभी क्लासेस नहीं है. देखिए, अभी मैं आपको बता देता हूँ कि जो हमारा VARC है और जो बाकी का है मैं बताता हूँ. अभी हमारा जो VARC QA और DLR है, तो वी विल हैव 2 क्लासेस ऑफ ईच पर वीक. 2 क्लासेस पर वीक. ओके, जिसमें से 4 क्लासेस होंगी वीकेंड पे, राइट? 2 ऑन सैट, 2 ऑन संडे. VARC we do on Saturday, Sunday. And one class each of QA and DLR we will do on Saturday, Sunday, and then 2 classes we do on weekdays. We will fix up the days, but they'll be again late. रात को लेट होता है 9 से 11 बजे रात को, तो जो भी वर्किंग लोग हैं वो भी अटेंड कर सकते हैं. So they don't have a challenge. So that's how we do it from December to April. Right? For VARC, April के first week से we have 4 classes. Okay, we have 4 classes. 2 will be in the weekday late in the night, and 2 will be in the. So this is how the things will unfold, and then these 4 classes will go on till CAT. So I hope that answers the question.
Sandeep.
Any other?
Sandeep sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, who will be taking the QA and DLR classes?
Quant and DLR?
Yes, sir.
So Quant is Jain sir, and DLR is either Jain or Niranjan. I'll have to finalize, so I'll come back to you on that. Have you taken classes from Niranjan sir earlier?
No, I have taken from Jain sir.
Oh, from Jain sir. Okay. So I'll come back to you on both of these.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, guys. So I hope the session added some value to you. Thank you so much for taking time out in the first session. And I hope to have you on board very soon. If you have any questions or doubts, please feel free to reach out to text or call or whatever. You want more details, you want to understand something more, feel free to reach out and connect. Okay. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you and have a great Sunday ahead. I'll see you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.